2, and we'll open up the planning board meeting. First off, Happy New Year to all my fellow members.
Yay.
And a Happy New Year to all our residents in the room here.
There we go.
And home watching on TV.
There we go.
And turning to our agenda, our first agenda item is public comment. Does anyone have any comments on matters that aren't included on the agenda? Hearing none.
Okay, if there are no public comments from the general public, I would have to make a statement.
Oh, okay.
I emailed Imai on Monday at 7 a.m. to add election of a new planning board chair to tonight's agenda, well within the time to meet posting requirements. Tony several times denied that request and finally suggested that I address it during citizens' comments. Because it is a board matter and not from the general public, I consulted Leon on the topic. He raised no legal issues with handling the topic that way, since the current chair instructed I do so. The planning board needs effective and full-time chair leadership. Since last fall's TOSTI process was divisive and necessary recusals deprived the board of 2 of 5 members. I thought the process would be over after town meeting voted against TOSTI. Instead of ending, the process has continued. The public records request for our board documents and correspondence, instead of ending with the failed TOSTI petition, was extended to include the rest of December. The board will soon consider a new proposal regarding 255 Miriam. There is a very real threat of lawsuits, both explicitly stated at town meeting and implicit in the document request. I move that we elect new chairs for the planning board. I propose that we share the duties, and I nominate Sue, Steve, and myself as co-chairpersons. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
I'm really puzzled about what to do here.
You want to open it for discussion, or you want to put it for later business?
Puzzled in what way?
I guess I'd like to have counsel for that. I'm not, we just,
Okay, go on.
are you done? Is there anything else?
Yes, I will say that the Weston Town Board and Committee Handbook states that reorganization can occur at any time needed, and I would contend, and others, and Sue seconded, that it is at this point needed because of the things facing us.
Can I?
Yes, sure.
I mean, obviously, I just heard about this. One thing that gives me pause is 3 co-chairs in a 5-person committee doesn't seem balanced.
Well, simply as a way to divide the tasks.
Well, then I would ask that there be a permanent, temporary, I'm not going to get into that, chair, who then delegates like any chairperson would. Because to have 3 chairs just doesn't seem, I mean, if you want to say it's a flat hierarchy, then let's say it's a flat hierarchy. I mean, that's what some of the different committees do. But that's my original thought about this. And is this something which is going to occur, and I'm sorry if I didn't follow all the details, during the TOSD discussion, or will it continue after that? Or?
It is from now until an undetermined time.
Okay.
Until we are free to reorganize at any time it's needed.
Okay, then I would ask, when I'm a counselor or whatever, that somehow we go back to, we either go flat, or we,
Flat, what does that
flat means there's no
Equal to-
chairperson.
Right.
It's, you know, it's basically every week somebody goes through the agenda, or that you go to one chair
Delegate.
who delegates. I mean, that's my immediate concern. I don't know how much of the time the TOSD is going to take, and whether it's going to be enough so that nothing else can be done except through rerouting this. I don't know. So I think it's a valid question. It's something that should be discussed. But I think, you know, council is a good start. I'm not familiar with any other approach to something like this, so.
My issue, what's going through my mind is, I know the appointment of a chair is an annual thing.
It can be.
No, I understand. I heard from you what you said was in a handbook. I've never seen anything other than saying the appointment of a chair is an annual matter. So you said handbook.
The Weston official town of Weston Board.
I know what you're reading, Alicia. I
Yes.
know. I don't have the handbook. I don't have counsel in front of me saying, this is an appropriate thing to do right now. I just don't know.
Leon,
I know what you're going to say, I know that, I just don't have counsel. So, last week, we had an issue that came up, and, you know, I'm just trying to be very careful about the right thing to do. I don't want to do the wrong thing legally. So, I'm a little bit confused on that, frankly, just on the legal matter.
I think that had Leon
No,
had concerns, well, may I please finish my sentence? That I spoke to Leon about it on Monday.
I've heard.
May I please finish my sentence, Tony?
You're gonna say that Leon, if Leon had concerns, then he would have brought it up.
No,
Did
that's not what I'm
Leon-
gonna say, you're putting words in my mouth. Please
Okay,
let
go
me
ahead,
finish,
go
Tony.
ahead.
Leon consulted with town council and raised no issues. Neither raised issues with this being brought up today and voted on today. He consulted with town council.
So, what do you think we should do on this? I mean, obviously.
As I recuse myself from that matter, that's another reason, well, I'm sort of stuck, because I can't get into the issues of talking about her motivations for doing it. So, you see how I'm stuck.
My
First of
motivations are
all,
to have the planning board run smoothly and
Let
have.
Steve talk.
Yes.
it's not just Alicia's motivations. It's Alicia Sue and my motivations, so it's not fair to blame her for it. We just feel that this is, with everything going on, there seem to be a lot of backdoor meetings and things happening where we're not a part of, and you are, even though you might be recusing yourself, you are chairman, and it just seems inappropriate. So for everyone's sake, it just seems like it's in the best interest of the board for you not to be chairman at this point in time. We're not saying never.
So I'm not arguing that issue. I'm not.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys feel is the right thing, it's not the issue. I'm just.
So is it the timing? Do you want to?
I guess I'm gonna go in again. How much of the time do you think, I'm trying to understand it, because there are a lot of really good efforts that are going on because of Tony. Transportation is one, tree management is another. I mean, there are a whole wealth of different ones. And I'd hate to lose that type of energy and impetus in that process. I completely agree that, you know, TOSD is something that we have had to excuse ourselves for, and that's just the way it is. Life goes on.
It's been very difficult.
Okay, but
To have that happen.
But it's one of those things, life happens, there are certain things we all have to recuse ourselves from.
Right.
And I guess I'm wondering how much of the planning board work really is the TOSD. My understanding, right or wrong, was from last night's selectmen meeting, was that they're taking it on, so it's not going to be the planning board anymore.
I don't know how that can be. I mean, ultimately, if it requires a bylaw change, it will be the planning
Right,
board.
there will absolutely be involved.
So.
But the leadership, I guess, what I understood, was going to be through the selectmen. So I guess I go back, does it have to be a complete change in leadership? Is there a way of doing this so we don't lose the good energy we've got in a
Well,
number of projects?
I'd also like to say that I don't think that Tony's not being chairman precludes him
Exactly.
from
All the good
playing
things he does.
all those roles and all the good things he does. I think that they're not mutually exclusive, so he can continue to do that.
But to have Tony be the representative, basically, that the select board speaks with, is very difficult. He has asked to recuse himself.
That's true, that's a
from-
very valid point,
Okay,
yeah.
so he's supposed to recuse himself, and he should be able to say, I can't discuss this. Because when you recuse yourself from both sides, and it must be very
Yeah, no.
difficult.
Steve, when you said backdoor meetings, what were you referring to?
Well, just all the meetings that we hear have been going on with you and Chris Houston and the
Steve,
neighborhood.
I have never talked to Annie since the beginning of this. When I vowed to recusing, I've never been a part, I've never uttered those words. I had, I'm not trying to defend myself, I'm just telling you that I consulted 3 times with the state ethics board on what I had to do, right? And I got a document from them that was well-studied on how to behave. I asked separately our town council about my behavior, right? How I had to behave throughout this process. And I got a document from her as well. Thirdly, given that the group I was a part of was suing the town because we're appealing a ZBA decision, I asked for another council's opinion because we were at odds with the town and with town council. I asked for a third opinion, and I was denied that, which was fine. But I just want you to know I wanted to go to 3 points on how I had to behave. So in most recusals, you'll find that a city board or committee member will still stay in the audience, as I think you've done in the past. I've been extra careful to leave and not be present in any discussion, whether it's public or private. So again, not defending myself, I just want to let you know, I haven't been a part of any discussion with any town committee, any town official regarding this. So I don't want anybody to feel like I've had one conversation with Chris Houston on the matter.
Tony, I don't want you to feel that this is
No,
an
I
attack on
was
you
responding to
personally.
Steve's
I know, but ma'am,
concern.
if I could
Yeah.
please finish that.
Yeah.
This is about how the planning board can best go forward, and it can best go forward with leadership who can be there every day for the planning board and won't have to recuse, and no one will have to be recused, and that's.
I'm not trying to defend myself. It was very concerning what Steve said to me, and I
Okay,
wanted
that's
to
fine,
know,
but I'm saying
as a
it's
fellow board
not a
member,
motivation.
that I wanted to be cleaner than Caesar's wife, I think is the expression. So I've gone above and beyond what the State Ethics Board asked me to do. I've gone above and beyond what town council has asked me to do.
Okay, that's good to know.
That's good to know, and we're happy to hear that, however.
What, can I
the
ask you,
planning
Steve,
board-
where you got the impression that I was meeting with Chris Houston?
It's just like things I've heard through the grapevine, so I can't say
Right.
it's a fact.
Okay,
Uh,
but I mean, that's
I
a pretty
assume-
strong accusation. Not that you've made an accusation, I mean, just that that's floating around
But I can
is
see-
very unfortunate.
I can see how that happened, because obviously Mr. Houston has been meeting with somebody from the, I don't know what the group is
They're
called.
called-
Again, I don't wanna,
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
well,
I don't wanna
know.
talk about it,
Yeah.
whatever's happening, it's
So-
not involving me.
Right,
Any discussions with
Okay.
Chris Houston or any of the select board or any other town group is not involved
And
me.
you never-
There's no
you never-
emails, there's
you never
nothing.
speak with the Silver Hill group or?
I speak with the Silver Hill group, I'm allowed to my private discussions with the Silver Hill group, yes. But I never reach out to any town official or town committee on
I've
the
never
matter.
talked to any of you about this.
Right, I mean, I write checks at home, you know,
Yeah.
I do, oh,
Oh.
Is this where we beat you up? Let's beat you up right now. Who did that?
That was exciting.
that's perfect.
I know
The
from my
camera stuff.
motivation, it's that we want the planning board to go forward in a strong position, and I think that
Everybody turn their phones on so we get some
Okay,
light.
that is my
Maybe we
motivation.
should take a break from the discussion, because
Yeah.
can you record now, Jim, or?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Can you say anything?
He's recording.
Diane, can you record?
I don't know if it's recording.
Generator didn't pop on.
Yeah,
Diane,
which
can
is
you
weird.
record?
I'm not sure it's recording.
Okay, we'll stop.
Yeah, I'm still recording. I'm still recording.
I love it.
Well,
We'll have to
this
see how
is
good the
distracting.
internet
I
is.
can't see you guys, but I can hear you.
Okay.
So you can continue on this recording if you want.
Still on. Are we gonna gain power back?
I think we should wait.
Any guesses, Ema?
Actually, it should.
I have no idea how power is.
Shouldn't we have more emergency lighting?
Yeah, I know.
going?
Yeah, we have a generator that is apparently not
Not
kicking on.
generating.
Normally
It
a
should be
generator
6-second
kicks on.
delay.
Obviously, it's not being
Wow.
tested every week for 15 minutes.
Well, why are we shutting the doors?
Because of that noise, it's piercing.
What is the noise?
It's the generator not working.
The power trying to kick on.
It's the, yeah, it's the power
Probably
room.
something shut off and their alarm.
You
it's an
got the
alarm
key to
without-
it?
No, I don't have the key to that. That's
Shall we go? Oh, here goes somebody
Somebody's
with a flashlight.
that's probably Brian.
Yeah.
Brian probably.
This
has
has
it.
never happened before.
This is.
I scare crap out of them coming in.
25 years I've been coming to these meetings and it's never happened before.
I don't know, this seems
One of your
too
projects is
important to
cursed.
have a good
So
conversation.
who wants to, would you guys like to continue this discussion now or break? I'm fine doing it.
We could continue it, I'm sure.
Well, we had a motion on the table that was seconded.
So, do you want to continue the discussion now?
Oh,
That's all I
fine.
have.
let's see what the prognosis is. Yes?
So it looks like it might just be town hall, which is not
That
good
could-
for moving forward, because
We're not gonna have the rest of the meeting because you can't see anything.
across the street is lit.
It's dark in this direction.
So, I mean, unless the circuit is like our
The
side.
police station probably has a space in there.
There are no lights at those houses.
Public
right
hearing,
now.
it'd be kind of tough to like,
We'd have to move everybody over there, I
You'd have to
know.
move everybody over there, but
notice it.
And then it wasn't.
we can move everybody, that's.
Over to the
But it
police
wasn't
station.
posted.
is that
I'm
what
just
we're saying?
suggesting the police station because they probably are definitely open and they might not extend. They have a decent conference room over there.
I'm sure glad you're at the beginning.
What do we do when we have a motion on the table? Do we?
Well, I can
table
move the
it and
question.
continue
I
it,
guess
or
I can
what do we do?
continue.
We
Let's
could
see if we
table
get a
it
little
for the next
prognosis for
meeting.
what's gonna happen
Why?
likewise.
My, a
More
substantive,
discussion.
question I have for you is, why does changing the chair matter from a manpower standpoint? I mean, I understand that Steve was appointed to be the chair when I was recused. How does it change? Why is appointing a new chair now, for the entire planning board, how does it make things easier? I don't quite get it.
Well, we were divide the tasks.
No, but you can, when I'm not the chair during your discussions on the 255 matters, let's say, you still have 3 people. So what's the
I will
difference?
just, okay, this is sort of my personal experience, which
Right.
was late in October, maybe in
Right.
early November. 3 of us discovered that we would not be a 5-member board, it would be a 2-member board.
What's
At town meeting.
And then there were only 2 of us at town meeting. This
Whoa.
was extremely,
Bravo.
But that's gonna be the case whether, no matter who's chair.
Correct.
but.
So what is the changing the chair
We
thing
won't feel
do?
quite as leaderless. I mean, it was very, you were a good leader, you were a good chairman, and it was
Right.
very difficult having that removed from us, that support, and we were just left flat. I don't know if I can explain.
Steve was unable to attend that meeting.
Correct.
I mean.
Okay, I mean, I don't understand that part of it, you know?
No, you wouldn't.
No, I know, I'm saying that, how does it get better? So you're saying that you would have rotating leadership, and that night you would have had yourself, or
Maybe we would
Leslie
feel
as the leader?
as,
you're not gonna have any more or less of a leader, I'm not gonna be there.
It's a strength in numbers thing, and.
Well, you don't have any more numbers, that's my point, you don't have
But
any
we will
more
be
numbers.
in the leaders, and we think it's time for a change, and we're allowed to suggest that. I've made that motion.
Right, it's time for a change, it's something different. What I heard was your justification was manpower, at least.
No, that was
But
not
I
my
heard
justification.
that was part of it, I
No.
thought.
No,
Okay, so what's the justification?
I don't need to give a justification. I've given you I'm not gonna argue this, I've given you my reason that we need effective and full-time chair leadership. I have a motion on the table, and it's been seconded, and I'm going to call the question in a minute. Unless we have question, I mean, it's entirely within our rights to.
Okay, I don't
ask for a
understand,
change.
whatever,
All right.
well, would
it's
you
not
like me to
worth
move that
arguing,
we
yeah.
table this
No.
Well,
motion right now,
I'd
and
like
we
to-
have discussed further?
I'd like to ask a
I-
couple more questions. Obviously,
Well,
I mean,
people are
I
raising,
guess,
so we don't have to keep them forever.
this
Yeah,
is
this is
sort of
problem.
important.
Yes,
I mean, this, how do I say this without saying this? Obviously, there's been previous discussion among members of the committee,
Mhm.
and that's not quite in opposition to open meeting law, but it's a little dicey.
no, that's not.
Well, I feel,
Disagree
well,
completely.
that's great. It seems like whether the discussions have happened, I'm gonna take a little bit of time to think about it, and think what the real issues are.
Mhm.
I think I've given you my from the hip issues. I think that there are times at any town meeting where not everybody's gonna be able to attend. So the leaderless part, I have to admit honestly, I'm not really understanding. Not every, people get the flu, people go on vacation.
Right, but we were
Et cetera.
totally unprepared.
But that's
Completely
not,
and
But that's
totally.
not-
that was not the issue of me being there or not, you know? That's
And
not-
it
you
wouldn't
had
have
a-
been that issue if maybe there would have been another chairman.
You had another
You've had
chairman.
another chair.
You had Steve being the chair.
Temporary chairman who was sort of assigned it at the last minute. Anyway.
But
I
if you're
can-
rotating, then you're
Okay.
temporary.
I'm trying to be reasonable.
Okay.
I understand,
Yeah.
but I'm also really trying to get to the heart of the matter, and I'm not, you know, if it's a matter of time, but I don't see that much time being spent on the TOSD. And, you know, you two there's some very senior members here who have the experience to run this vote. So I'm just not understanding, you know, the legalist part and the not prepared, because well, see, then we get into the TOSD, and I can't do that.
Okay, well, there are other issues that I actually
Yeah.
don't want to bring up right
Okay.
now. So I would like to move that we table this and have a discussion in an executive session
Okay.
with town council.
That's probably a
That's-
very good
I think
idea.
that's a great
And
idea.
then we can, because it's probably inappropriate to be here as a board, consuming valuable time
Right.
with our own infrastructure issues.
Can you have an executive session for something like this?
No, there are very strict parameters
Yeah.
about executive session, and I don't think that just talking qualifies as an executive session. If you're doing someone's review of their employment
If it might
status,
involve a potential lawsuit, I can put that as one.
but it's not, we're not privy to that lawsuit, so we aren't gonna be discussing
Well,
it.
it isn't here yet, yes.
And we've asked for town council to come to a meeting, we haven't.
Well,
done
okay,
that.
then there are things that I would rather discuss at the end of the meeting then, if that would be, or at another time.
Well, why
And
do we
have town
want
council
to
come
table
in.
this till the end of the meeting?
No, because it's not like we can talk after.
Right, no, what I meant,
The
when
meeting
we're
is
not
adjourned.
holding people up is what I
Oh.
meant, just out of courtesy for the people who are sitting here trying to have their stone wall repaired.
Oh, part of the entertainment.
I'm a little nervous about that, because this is citizen comment time, so, and then we're into what's on the agenda, what's not on the agenda, so I think we need to end it in the citizen comment period. And not agree to start the citizen comment period with specific topics. So I'm a little bit nervous about starting that later.
So what should we do?
So,
I have a motion on the table, and it's been seconded.
Does it, I don't know if it has to be voted,
Yes.
even though it's been seconded.
Well, we
Yes,
can
we
vote on
have to
it.
have a vote. We would have a vote then, so.
Okay, do you want to,
Do you want to vote right now without everybody being fully? open?
I'm nervous about the legal aspect is my
Right.
issue.
I
That's-
So
agree
why don't we
with that.
table it?
Okay.
I say we table it and discuss it at another
Okay.
meeting.
But I think we have to take the vote, and you either have to say yes or no, and we can consider this at another time.
Well, I think we move to
You
table
move,
the.
you can
this
also
motion.
withdraw a second, you can move to table.
We're
Yeah.
gonna
Ta-
move to table.
Yeah, you can move to table.
this
Table,
motion
table
And continue it
is
at a date
a,
specific.
you know,
That's fine.
what do you call it, proceeding order.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you
So-
ask for audience input? I mean, just because they're all here, might have
It's
questions.
complicated enough.
I don't
I think
It's
it's
know.
still the
complicated.
citizen
Citizen
comment.
comment.
It's still the citizen comment period. Isn't it?
So maybe people have questions, I don't know.
Does anyone have any questions? We'll take questions. Right there, no questions. Thanks, Tom.
I move to table.
Okay,
Discussion.
do I hear a second?
To either the next meeting, or if it does qualify for an executive discussion,
Mhm.
either at the next meeting or some other time to have an executive discussion.
But basically, you're asking for a moderator to have the legal counsel in here
I'm-
to listen to what's going on.
Less a moderator and more, can we take this action?
Okay.
Can we take it? Of course we can take it.
Alicia, can I just say, I don't know. The last thing I read about how often a chairman is appointed, it says the term is a year. So
It's,
that's
it
the last
says
thing.
shall be, it can be, it doesn't
Okay.
say it must be, or that it's a duration of that. And I just read to you from the town board and committee handbook that says it can occur at any time needed, and
If
I
you were
have made a
town
motion
council,
and
I
it's
would say,
moved.
okay, at any rate, we have a motion.
Mhm.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed.
Shall we move on? Any other citizen comment? Okay, let's move on. Thanks, I appreciate that, and I understand the situation very much.
It's better for me to see.
Oh, okay.
here, 'cause I can see.
So the next item the first item on the agenda itself is 148 Sudbury Road. Temporarily remove a stone wall.
Yes, we received an application for a stone wall to come out. for a geothermal heating system to come into the house, so they just want to temporarily remove the wall and then replace it in the exact same way once it's complete.
Okay,
There's the homeowners here to discuss that.
great.
For geothermal,
Come on
what
up.
is, so they're putting in a ground?
It's like they're, probably knows the technical aspects, but it's in the scenic road, so it's a special permit.
Oh, I see, okay, thank you.
You must feel really comfy coming up right after this.
Everybody's warmed up.
We're all warmed up now.
So we,
You should introduce yourself.
so my name is Hans Schrocklein,
Hi,
and
Hans.
this is my wife
I'm Sarah
Sarah.
Masters.
Great.
And so we bought this house at 148 Sudbury Road in July of last year. Moved in last July, and so there's an oil furnace in there, and so we want to upgrade it to a that would need replacement. And so we want to get away from fossil fuels, and so we want to install a geothermal system. And so there will be 2 wells drilled in our front yard, and then, that's
They
used.
pump that water.
They pump water through it,
Extract the
and then,
heat.
and then
Exactly.
get the
Your
heat
house,
pump.
yes.
And so it's like a low energy, low carbon impact heating system. And so to be able to do that, they have to come in with a drilling rig, and to be able to come in,
Oh, they need
would
access.
need to, yeah, and so it's just a 10 to 15 foot part of the wall. It's like, actually the wall is not really a wall, it's
Right.
more,
It's a rubble
A
wall.
pile.
It's a rubble wall.
so
Yeah.
we would
We would want the
remove it, and
same
we would-
leaves replaced. I understand that, yes.
But so we would take a picture and would try to replace it as close to what it is.
Yeah, and this is looking toward our house. We have another picture from the back. You can see it's,
Yeah, it's
the
pretty.
shape it's in.
I might even like to roll one of the stones back up.
Yeah, exactly. I actually had noticed that was.
And it would
Yeah,
remain
that's-
mortarless and all.
Yeah, mortarless.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
just-
And in a rubble wall rather than specifically
Right.
made stones and stuff, yeah, just
Right.
like what we have on our
Right,
streets.
It's a
Exactly.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The trick is just when they're doing all the excavation, don't let them cart away the original stones thinking it's part of the dig.
That's
Right, we're very clear, yeah.
It's a very small
Okay,
hole that they
then,
drill.
Yeah, just,
Yeah,
Okay.
And actually, it'll probably take a day or 2 depending on the depth of your well.
yes, it's.
it will, and that's one thing we wanted to ask, whether there's a time constraint, because they might want to take it out now, we're not quite sure. We wanted to get approval before scheduling the drilling
Right.
and everything. They would send in the drill rig as soon as it's available, is my understanding,
But
but,
it's unclear when exactly that
Yeah.
would be. I mean, it would be
Well,
within
if they
like
can
2
drill
or 3
through rocks,
months'
they can
time.
drill through.
well, that's
permafrost.
true. Well, just like removing
Yeah,
the
sure.
wall, making
Yeah,
sure
no.
it's,
Plus
you know.
availability of the drill
Right.
crew also, so we have little influence on
Yeah.
that, but it will be
Mhm.
within
Right.
a 3 months
And,
time
right,
frame.
too fast.
so-
Well, mostly because with these well-aged rocks, they have a lot of lichens and moss on
Mhm.
them. If they're piled incorrectly and
Yes.
stay there very
Mhm.
long, all the lichens and moss
Mhm.
goes away. And pretty
Yeah.
soon you would look like you have raw
Mhm.
stone. So that's kind of my concern, is
Yeah.
how fast they can get this
Okay.
done
Mhm.
and how fast the well can be reassembled with the, with the bulk of the moss,
Yeah,
like
but we would
spacing.
make
Yeah.
sure that we.
We're very
roll it on
detail
the
oriented and
sides.
we'll make sure that
Yeah.
they do it.
So you don't have an exact time?
We don't, no.
Yeah, It would be nice if they could do it now when the ground is frozen, because it would dig up
Yes.
a lot less of everything.
Exactly.
But
Well,
we can say 6 months, I mean, that would.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's definitely.
It would definitely be,
That would be definitely.
Yeah.
definitely, we assume by June for sure, but hopefully earlier, so.
Question?
Yeah, Diana Chaplin. I just wanted to, for viewers at home, I just wanted to mention that this couple is one of the first couples that we've had come to the board to go with a more sustainable heating source. And we're so excited to welcome you to Weston and thank you for reducing your fossil fuel footprint.
Thank you.
Yay.
Ta-da.
And Nina has something she wants to say.
I see orange lines. Or
Yes.
posts. What are those?
Those are just, I just drew those on my phone, basically.
Oh, okay.
That's the approximate area of the wall that will be removed.
So it's just a few feet, like 6 feet of wall?
Well, it's like 10 to 12 feet.
10 to 12.
Just
So
enough, it's limited, but you can't, well, there's
Just
there's
between
trees
the
and the
tree
sign,
and the trees.
basically.
Right,
So-
I'm with the tree committee.
Okay.
And I'm just concerned about, looks like oaks, and just to be careful with the root systems
Yes.
when you drive over them. Because you can't avoid driving over them somewhat, but So the geothermal wells
Yeah,
will
then
be
it's
closer to
increased.
the house?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Not close to the wall, but closer?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
They
they
just-
just have to get in.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, I'll probably put pads down anyway, so you won't go in your lawn, so
Exactly, yeah.
that can help
This
with
is
the
way a good
compact.
snowstorm would be.
Never hurts.
Protect everything.
Were you good?
Good, I'm
Good.
good. That was an easy one, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Great. So was there a decision to be made?
We can have a decision on the next meeting.
Okay. What's the date?
And we're,
22nd?
so
Okay.
from, so that would be compliant, I mean, when would their time begin? Would it be a date specific, the
I
hours?
think it would be a date
specific?
that we approved.
Okay, so it could be 22nd through 6 months from that date? did you
Why
say?
not?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
6 months.
That's before,
Yeah,
give them a
because they'll be,
couple
yeah,
more.
they'll be approval
Yeah,
before then.
Then you get Muncie.
Very good.
So as practice, you probably want to close this hearing too, now, so,
We're gonna close the
yeah, close the hearing and then the decision at the next
public
meeting.
hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I see, here's such a motion?
So moved?
Here's a second?
Second.
All approved?
Yo, aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous?
Wow.
All right. 15 Pinecroft, site plan approval.
Good with that?
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Hi there.
You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Again.
I'm Mike White, I'm with Simeo Design, we're the landscape architects of the project.
Okay.
Chris Russ with CRA Architect, and we also have Carlo and Christine, Fairley, the homeowner.
Hi there.
Carl, my wife Christine.
Great, nice to see you guys.
So we're going to give you guys around 20 minutes to uninterrupted to make your presentation. Is that good? Make it a little bit more?
Yeah, put in the,
Then the sequence is you go, we might ask some clarifying questions, then we'll turn it to the audience, then we'll turn it to our experts, and then we'll come back here for final discussion. Is that okay? And then maybe we can be done with the whole thing in like 45 minutes. Hopefully, great. So we'll let you guys go unencumbered.
Okay. I'll start with the site layout. The civil engineer wasn't able to be here, I have notes to speak to the general design. Projects consist of demolition of an existing single-family home, reconstruction of a new single-family home. We received Conservation Commission approval last night. We are removing, at the end of the project, the existing driveway, which sits within the buffer zone, out of the buffer zone, further up Pinecroft Road, closer to Montvale Road. The site plan you see here, in this area here, the cyan color, that's the leaching field for the septic system. It sits beneath the new driveway. Its location was dictated based on soil conditions as well as minimizing overall tree removal from the property. There's two drywall structures, one here beneath the driveway, another here on the right-hand side of the home. That infiltrates the roof runoff. And overall, we have we are controlling the rate of runoff to the wetland area post-project to match the existing rate of runoff.
Okay, so it's no worse.
That's correct. And then just around, we have a new driveway here, the new home, outdoor terrace, and open lawn area that I can take you through in more detail on the landscape plan. Before I move on, any questions about,
Okay, we're going to start with our context plan. Did they have the context?
Sure.
Okay, great.
can I take you to?
Sure.
That's
That's the pointer. So shaded in gray here is our property at 15 Pinecroft. So the existing lot size we have is just under 3/4 of an acre. It's in residential zone C, which is a 1,500 square foot neighborhood. The existing square foot for the 15 Pinecroft is 2,386 square feet. Here we have Montvale Ave, Pinecroft, and Conan. Do you want to go through each house, or how detailed do you want?
Just walk through, I think, the abutting property, the side abutting properties.
Sure.
And let us know what the RGFA is of the proposed house as well as all the adjacent properties.
So-
Post is 5 to 40. Right here, so we know that.
So 31 Montvale Ave, which is right here, we have, I don't have the lot square footages. I have the RGFA square footages. It is 3,846 square feet. Moving down to 217 Conant Road, we have an RGFA of 3,148. Coming down to 215 Conant Road, we have an RGFA of 5,620 square feet. Up here, we'll go to 16 Pinecroft. We have an RGFA of 4,029 square feet.
Is that the one across the street?
This one directly,
Okay.
this one here.
How big is the, sorry, the new one's going in?
5483.
Yes, so,
Thanks.
and then there are a couple other houses that aren't showing up here down further on Pinecroft, down on this side of the neighborhood, 47 and 60. 47 is 5,743 square feet. 60 Pinecroft is 4,933 square feet.
And your square feet again?
Our square footage, so the square footage at the site walk, we had 5,483 square feet.
Right.
After the site walk, we did some revisions to
Oh.
accommodate some of your comments, and
Right.
we ended up, it's a modest reduction, but we lost 20 square feet.
Trying.
Gave it the old college try.
Exactly.
Perfect. All right, ready to move on?
Sure. So, here we have the house. It's a shingle-style house, and the nature of those designs are sort of steep sloping roofs, natural materials. We have the main house will be a shingle material. It's pretty Harbor gray is the color, which is sort of a warm gray. The siding or the trim on the house will be a Benjamin Moore white dove, and then we have some fieldstone. That's the natural brown fieldstones, and the style we're looking to do is an ashlar that we're considering a rustic ashlar because it's not a perfectly squared off and cut stones. So the other sort of statistics for the house, the building height that we have up here on, this is a revised drawing that we revised from what you saw at the site walk. So overall building height, we were able to lower by a foot just by changing some ridge heights and things. So we're a foot and call it 2 feet lower than the 37 feet that we are allowed. The garage height, or the building height from grade is 31 or 30 feet 1 inch. So that's not going to the official building height, that's going to just from our finished grade at the front yard. And the garage height is 29 feet 1 inch. So we're on the back. This is our wall where we position the house. We tried to limit all of our grading, and the house that's on there has sort of a answer to that with how we have to walk out for the garage and whatnot because it's a sloping lot. This wall here, and you'll see in Mike's drawings, we have stairs, and it's not as just a wall that comes across their stairs and it's broken up to create the grade from our patio down to our rear lawn. This left-hand elevation is the elevation that faces 31 Montvale, and I wasn't at the hearing, but one of the comments you guys were saying is there's a lot of house here, and is there any way we can help
Just cut the wall.
soften the elevation and things?
Is that 31 Montvale here? This is your proposed
Yes,
house?
that's
This
correct.
is
That's 31 Montvale. Yep.
Thank you.
Can you show us the before of that, so we can compare the two?
I
I
can
don't have
pull
to
it
do
up.
it this minute, but.
If you can pull that up, that'd be great. I do have a copy of it. the major change is this area right here, that dormer piece that was running between making the connections was a bedroom that we
Okay.
were able to reconfigure the second floor and garage, shifting around, put the two bedrooms above the garage in.
Just for everybody, why don't you just do it before and after? Say before and after. Keep it
Before, can you
So
move
this
the
is the
step at
before.
the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, so I'm just
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to,
yeah.
I mean, if I slide it down,
So,
it'd be
but-
easier.
and
Oh.
describe the objections that we had to the before, and then what you did
There's
to
no
improve
way
it.
around it.
So what I gathered was, right now, there's a lot of wall space here coming across that property or down that property setback. So in trying to answer that, what we were able to do is this wall here pushed forward, so in this design is 9 inches from this wall, so it steps back 9 inches. We were able to push that wall back so it's 2 feet behind this wall.
Much better.
Same thing with this little added-on garage piece, that we were able to push away
Right.
2 feet.
Bottom is it before
And
you
then
have to switch?
through all of that, we were able to eliminate this dormer connection between here, and now that becomes roof area,
Got it.
That's the-
and that's what we have.
That's much better.
So is that, in plan, is that the only change from the 9 inches to the 2 feet, or are there any other step backs? in
No,
plan?
this, I was able to shift, but it's almost not worth mentioning, because you wouldn't notice it was about 2.5 inches, just to make a center happen. This is the shift that was able to push over 2 feet. This year was able to push over 2 feet. We started pushing the garage around, and we get into drainage and septic and things like that, we're gonna start affecting more of the grading.
Did I miss a total, what is the length of that bottom?
The total length of that wall.
Of that, the house on, the elevation that's on the bottom, that left side elevation? Just curious. It's probably on there, I can't see it from here.
Not here, so, oh, no, can't read that. So the total length from.
On that west
sorry,
side of
The garage is, from garage to the family room is 96 feet 8 inches.
Okay, we don't need to see the inside of that.
I was trying to pull up the
Yeah.
distance there.
Sure.
Okay.
So that's the house. We didn't,
Did we talk a lot about lighting or removal of trees? I didn't.
We haven't yet.
Okay.
It'll come.
there are some, I mean, where we have them, the exterior lights are here drawn, like, has them also on his landscape plan showing
Okay,
specs
that'd be
and
great.
things like that, so.
I have a question before you move on
Yep.
quickly. So I see there's veneer stone, field stone to the left, and then there's white. What's going on between the two there? Is it just tired drawing, or
From
is
here
reading
up,
that?
that would be a barge concrete. What we're doing is wrapping the side there so that
Yeah,
this is the more exposed side, the visible side.
yeah.
When we run up this with the screening and buffer between the two, it's, right now, we're just doing a barge
Barge
grade
concrete.
concrete, yeah.
But it's gonna be a medium grade or something to match, so it looks like the same value as the stone.
Yeah, right, it wouldn't be just a concrete.
It wouldn't be like bleached, you know, it's not
Right,
gonna be one of
exactly,
those.
yep, yep.
And the other thing is on the top one, I see, there's a white band that comes across here.
This year,
Yeah,
so that, what you're seeing is, this is the patio level,
right.
and then there's space between the patio and the wall that we're sloping down to the wall.
Okay,
So
so
that's garden.
the arched part is pulled forward, and there really are two doors going through the field stone into the bottom of that pavilion piece.
Yes, exactly. These are going into the basement
Okay.
space.
Just wanna make sure I was reading it
Yep.
correctly.
Mhm.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
Color is not in our purview, because you talked about paint, that's not in our purview, but what are the materials? Are they wood shingles?
Wood shingles, yep. And it's a natural field stone, and then asphalt.
I heard that part,
Yep.
but I didn't know about the
Yep.
wall materials.
But it's a veneer field stone, it's not a real, it's not a real
It's a real stone, but it's a veneer.
veneer, it's still plastered on the
Yes.
side.
Landscaping?
Sure.
Okay. From a landscape perspective, the current proposal removes 21 existing trees. That's in function of the driveway and septic field construction, as well as the new home, and clearing in the rear of the property for a small lawn. This current proposal to you proposes to replant 50 new trees throughout the property.
50?
50.
So which are the old being taken down and which are the new?
This plan just documents trees to be removed. So blue color you see are existing live trees which are coming down, and the magenta color that you see are existing dead trees that are going to be removed.
Any idea what the diameter of the large blue circles, are they to scale or?
They're not to scale. We do have the caliper inches.
Yeah, can you give us a range?
They would range from 6 inches up to 36 inches.
Is it 36 inch you gotta take down?
One sycamore tree right
Oh, that
here
one I
is the
remember.
largest.
That's the one in between
Yeah.
the Montvale house,
That's
the large
right.
tree.
No, that's the one in their living room, I think.
It's off the terrace. of the existing-
Are the other ones in there at the same size, or is that the only
No,
junk you're
they're-
taking out? The only heritage tree
They're
you're
much
taking
less
out?
than that. 12 to, I would say,
Right.
6 to 18 inches on average. And then the landscape plan, I'll take you through kind of broadly here, and then we have some blow-ups details that address some of the comments that you asked during the site. Broadly speaking, property line between 15 Pinecroft and 31 Montvale has been screened. We've added additional planting in function of the new exterior wall layout, as well as put this planting here closer to 15 Pinecroft, to kind of ease the transition between the two properties. That'll become a little clearer during the blow-ups and also on the site sections. Again, new driveway, exterior terrace coming out of the house and terracing down to the open lawn area here in the back. This blow-up here kind of details the planting buffer between 31 Montvale and 15 Pinecroft. This also shows up in the section that I'll present to you in a moment. But in general, as the changes of the home pushed the walls back, we gained a few more feet here. Previous layout took this buffer of primarily evergreen trees and lower understory planting and moved it off the property line and pushed it closer to 15 Pinecroft. The thought was there's more space, it's a little more generous and not crammed up as tight as it was in the previous layout, right at the line between 15 and 31. This section here is taken Montvale Road up here. It cuts right along the property line with 31 Montvale, down to the stream in the back. And what we're showing is the existing white pine trees, quite tall, quite open in the bottom here, as well as a mix of new evergreen trees for screening. The proposed height right now is a mix of 10-foot and 14-foot height at the time of installation. What we're showing here is a deciduous canopy tree, a sugar maple, to help kind of screen the two properties and reduce the impact of the massing of the home kind of between the two backyards, if you will. Also, there's understory planting right at the base of the proposed evergreen trees. And again, this planting's been pushed back from the property line to be more generous.
Okay, just, I'm sorry, I was not at the sidewalk, but on this particular Google, Montvale has these three bushes, I'm not sure what they are. Are they on this property or the others?
They're on 15 Pinecroft.
Okay.
And they're these trees that you see here.
Are those actually
Wait a
more or less
second.
to scale as far as
Yeah.
the height?
They are the taller trees?
They're the taller
These
trees.
are the pine trees?
These are the,
1, 2, 3. It's
1, 2, 3 is all we see.
Yeah, here's a,
4.
Are they-
I'd say
are they-
4.
These don't look like pine trees.
so you can see
So
that
they're the
here.
trees that are wide open.
Yeah, you ever just blow that photo up there? Actually? This one right here.
I was just wondering how you could possibly plant so densely in there, but I see you have just nothing but trunks, basically. Okay.
These trees here.
So the understory is gonna go right on the roots of the big pines.
They're gonna go behind now. So they're everything's been stepped back into the property, into 15
But
Pine Grove.
it's underneath the drip, the drip edge, right, within the drip edge.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that one's the initial. My understanding about sugar maples, unfortunately, is that climate change is not being kind to them. And if we're planting for the future, we probably should be looking at something else.
It's fine.
I don't know if Kim wants to make a recommendation or. So, you can confer with Kim.
We'll come back on that.
I'll go back.
Any other questions about, are you gonna go to different site sections?
We have others.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
can move on to another one, or if there's any
I
questions.
think that was the critical one. Did you guys want to look at the other site sections?
This was the
One
critical
from
one,
Yeah,
from
right.
Montville was
Yeah.
one of the greatest impact on it.
Yeah. I think we can move on to lighting.
Okay.
And I'd like to look at all the sites.
Okay.
This one here shows the garage, entry courtyard. This is Pinecroft Road here, and this is 31 Montvale. And this is the property line that we were just looking at previously. And again, for screening, same concept, a mix of evergreen trees with understory planting along Pinecroft Road. Again, proposed trees, deciduous inside the property. And again, detailing, you could blow that up if you wanted to, Dina.
Are there any large trees staying on the Pinecroft side? On the,
Yes.
There are?
There are.
I'm just looking, because it doesn't look like there are, that's why.
There are, there's a few trees coming down just where the driveway gets relocated, opposite of that.
But there are some mature trees on that side too.
Yes, yes. And then this section here was requested at the sidewalk. And here we're looking at the back and the rear of 31 Montvale, 15 Pinecroft. And again, Pinecroft Road here. And it's meant to show the grade change, as well as the new buffer between the two properties. And it also details the wall in the back, the planted slope, how it's screened.
What is that? Or what are those shrubs?
Shrubs are a mix of rhododendron and viburnum. Primarily evergreen, to a much larger degree than the viburnum.
Right, most to be names.
Yep. As far as lighting goes, we're under the 16,000 lumen threshold. 15.
Let's say 1599.
No.
Yeah,
15,772. And we included an image. I should mention too, I apologize, I didn't mention this in the beginning. We are proposing a fieldstone wall along the perimeter of the property. It's just an image showing the character of the.
Is that going to be a veneer stone or is that going to be real fieldstone?
It'd be real
Constructed.
fieldstone.
I mean, sorry, constructed wood, so it's not, doesn't have a concrete base. I mean, not just,
Yeah.
Like driveway.
thank you.
Yes.
Dry light,
Yes.
exactly, yes.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Because that was more, a little bit more like a veneer.
That was constructed.
And the generator and the AC and all the utilities are located where?
And you can see on the blow-up plan, the air conditioner generator are located here, fence around them, as well as arborvitae in front for screening. Water service comes in from Montvale Road here. And the electric, I believe, is overhead,
No, it's on.
underground.
Yeah.
Go back to the,
I think it's the other peak
and just remind me where the electric is.
Drainage is on the Pinecroft side.
Ah, if the electric comes in, right here is
Yeah, it's the drive.
go back to the proposed landscape plan? And can you describe in greater detail things like where that proposed stone wall is, and tell us more about the proposed plantings, because you can't really tell which are new and which are old, and
Sure.
when they're new, what type they are, etc.
Okay. The new stone wall,
Wait,
starts here.
can you hold that? Can you zoom in a little bit? Great, thank you.
There's a new driveway opening here, a section of stone wall which begins here and ends here. There's an existing evergreen shrub that we're preserving, and the wall stops just in front of it.
So wait, on that stone wall, is it retaining anything, or is it just a stone wall?
It's just freestanding.
It's just freestanding, okay.
And did we settle the issue of whether it's concrete-based or driveway?
Driveway.
So, if I'm reading that right, it seems like there's a whole sort of area that is outside the wall, between the wall and the street, is that true?
That's correct.
That's still your property, it's not public way, right?
No, it's right away.
It is right of way.
Yeah, the right, so the property line is the blue.
Yeah,
So you're talking about from there to the
yeah,
pavement.
exactly.
Yeah, so that, and then you can even see at the corner of
There's
Longfield
quite a bit
Concrete,
there,
there's a lot of right of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys, I'm not sure how we normally deal with that. I know we don't like people cutting things. I don't think we have a problem with people planting things. So I'm assuming that you guys are planting and you're gonna take care of it as well as planting it. I mean, you're gonna sort of take over, it's like getting a piece of the highway almost. You're gonna take responsibility, make sure it's, clean and the trees are dead, you'll take them over and all that other stuff. I mean, that seems,
No bittersweet with poison.
well, there's
All
much
right.
you can do in Weston,
Are any of the trees coming down in the right of way?
Only, there's two dead ones, which are coming
Are they allowed to do that? With their debt permission?
Well, they
Yeah,
still
they
need
get
approval
approval.
from DPW.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be a condition we put in their approval to take those down.
The other thing I would ask, and I know this gets tricky, but we have an awful lot of grass in places we might not want to increase it. Can you consider things like ground cover, or, I'm not really a fan of wildflowers, but something, in there, maybe Kim can come up with something. It looks like grass, I don't know what you were planting there under the trees.
Are you talking about in the right of way?
Yeah,
No.
right away.
In the right of way?
Green.
Oh, I was talking
I don't
about.
think you're allowed to, it's not jurisdictional to the planning board.
I'm sorry?
It's not jurisdictional to the planning board.
Okay, well, I see green there, and I'm concerned it becomes grass, and I'm hoping it doesn't become grass, that's all I'm trying to say.
Part of what you're seeing in the right of way is just the background of the area.
Okay. So you're just basically going to be planting new trees and shrubs? Okay.
All right, so go ahead with the new trees and.
What specifically?
I can't tell which are the new trees, which are the old trees, what kind of trees they are, just by looking at that.
Oh, sure. So this symbol you see here, these are existing trees. This symbol that you see here are the proposed evergreen trees. And this symbol here is the proposed deciduous trees.
What type of tree?
These are sycamore.
Replace the one that's coming down.
So for deciduous trees, at the moment, we have sugar maple, which will change in function.
I'm just, I don't know, that's what I've heard through about the MVP.
We have maple, we have flowering dogwood, we have sergeant cherry. The for evergreen is Fraser fir, Norway spruce, hemlock, and as well as arborvitae.
And what's the understory planting along the property line?
Along the property line, the greenish color here is viburnum, and in the back, the yellow that you see is rhododendron. Same over here, there's the evergreens that you see are hemlock. There's a few viburnum here, I'm sorry, rhododendron, as well as over here.
Are those lights I see? There's lighting, can you point out?
Yes.
Just rotate around.
Those are the sections.
We have
That shows you
3 fixtures on the face of the garage. 2 wall sconce fixtures at the door, side door as well as main entry door. We have wall sconce fixtures on the back at the egress doors, as well as 2 fixtures down below for the doors coming out of the basement. We also have pathway lights for the front walkway, taking you around to the back terrace, as well as 1 post light for the driveway.
What are the 2 doors down below which go to the grass area? What are they for? What is that interaction? I mean, it's just exit, or is there something going on between those 2 spaces? Between the
No,
doors and the,
it's just egress from the basement out.
but there's no, I mean, there's no pool, there's no fire pit, there's no
No, it's just lawn.
lawn.
I mean, they're required by code.
Have 2 sconces?
Just 2 doors. 2 doors.
2 doors, okay.
2 doors are required by code?
Doors aren't required, but the 2 doors are not required to, if you put a light.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Just
just
figuring
thinking 2 doors, 1 light, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like an awful lot, a fair amount of outside lighting, and I'm trying to see if you need that much. I know you're within the lumen count. Because we were talking before about the number of lights we often see on garages.
Right, 3,
3 versus
Right.
2, you know,
Right.
instead. And, you know,
and with 3 bays, sometimes it's 4.
yeah, the whole building will get lit up. And I know they're dark, I think they're dark sky, right?
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
right. I don't know, do you have elevations we can take a quick peek at?
Getting dizzy. So those are the 2 doors.
2 fixtures here, 1 fixture here, 1 fixture there.
And those guys are, if I'm remembering correctly, how much farther between those 2 planes? Those lights are very much close to each other. It just seems,
Is there any opportunity to reduce lighting, in your opinion?
bingo.
Is there what?
Is there any opportunity to reduce the outdoor lighting?
Cut frames are quick, yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what
We
she's
put
going.
a fixture over those double doors instead of one on either side of that large set.
I also have a question about the double doors. This is the only access from the outside into the basement? Is that right?
From outside, yes.
Right, but
What- I don't know.
I don't know, I mean, my question is, you have 2 small doors, whereas 1 larger slider or something like that would seem to be much more functional for the homeowners that might want to bring in, I don't know, furniture or other, I mean, it's pretty hard to have just this far apart, there's standard
They're
doors.
3-foot doors,
I
so
don't know
they're
what-
wider than normal doors.
Yeah.
What room does that go into? Is it like a playroom or?
Yeah, and it's gonna be a rec room.
Yeah, I don't care,
I
I'm
mean,
thinking
one
about the
door
homeowners,
probably
who are later
would
gonna
actually-
say, boy, this is
It's a
so
helpful suggestion.
silly. Yeah. Just wondering why you wouldn't just have 1, you know,
Wider.
big slider that would provide
Or
more
one
light
door.
into that area, and it's easier to get out of the way and get in, you know, your handy dandy wheelbarrow and other stuff.
Or a tricycle.
I don't know, but that's, I mean, you guys maybe love your 2 doors, and that's fine, you know, if you do, I really don't care, but just as a homeowner, it really is helpful to have 1 big access into your basement.
So for lighting issue?
Is there
And you
any
could
way
just have 1 light then.
Oh, I think, so one area where we could reduce is the pathway light.
Yeah, that
We
would,
could cut that quantity down.
Yes, it is small.
I mean, there's an awful lot of light.
Are there lights next to each of those basement doors?
Yeah, so there are 2 lights just pointing.
I can't see them.
Yeah, it's hard to see there.
But there's not 4
It's one
lights there,
sky's
it's just,
stone.
it's just.
Show you.
Yeah, 1 here and 1 here.
Right inside.
And it's,
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
I mean, some of these doors you're going into, and some of them are just sort of like framing the architecture, and that's less useful.
Mhm. Sure.
Asymmetry can sometimes be fun.
Reducing the pathway light.
Okay,
Okay.
start with that,
Let's move on.
please, yeah.
I think I have to go back.
Great.
At the garage, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And the one on the farthest garage, the smallest bay,
Yeah.
that one, that's the easy candidate to say, we can remove that.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would make Sue happy, right?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah, so that's an easy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And post light, how tall is the post light?
8 feet. Oh, strike that.
Good.
Bad response.
You take
Really
your
tall.
Can I get 7? Can I 6?
Can I get 3 feet?
3 feet?
Yeah, little guys, no, little guys. Are you talking about when you say post light and lantern versus lighting?
No.
Can we see a picture of that one?
Oh,
And that's set back within the right of way, farther back, it's not at the street, right?
it's on the property,
Okay.
within the property.
Okay.
Here. The height would be no more than 5 feet.
To the top of this.
That's correct.
I thought we were looking recently at lower lights that shone down, rather than lights that were higher that sort of glowed around.
Right.
I think that's something we'd like to see if you can come up
Except
with.
that these are, I completely
Yeah.
agree with you, these are dark sky compliant.
Right,
And
but
that is
it-
what we,
I understand, but it's still out there in the height. I mean, you can take dark sky compliant, but instead put it up at 8 feet, and
but it's got it lower.
yeah. Well, there was a
Just went as we
misspeaking.
asked, we spoke from 5 feet to about.
Yeah, but it was, I think, misspeaking rather than it actually got lower. You might consider doing something a little less overall lighting, even though it is dark sky, because there is, even though it's dark sky, you're gonna be lighting around quite a bit, rather than keeping it down.
Yeah, well, they do, you've seen them, they're beautiful, they're sort of streetlights. They're completely shielded
Yeah.
on top and they focus all the luminance.
Light down, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you had a sign that said whatever number 148, you know, it would be down on the sign, rather than just sort of generally lighting bushes.
Sure, that sounds fine.
Good looking.
Are we, did you go over the picture?
We have here the view from Pinecroft and Montvale Road, 31 Pinecroft, the existing home. Pinecroft is on this side, Montvale will be behind the photo picture. And the view of the property line looking toward 31 Montvale, existing home on the right. View existing home here, Pinecroft Road on the left, existing driveway is getting relocated, and view into the existing lawn with a new driveway and leach field residential use. Another shot just looking up the driveway right at the existing home. And again, some more shots from Pinecroft. And again, Montville Road here, Pinecroft Road here.
So all that shrubbery on the right of way is staying, and you're just adding trees?
Correct.
Okay, great. You're keeping the good old tree litter, great.
Anything else?
No.
Great, great.
One other
Sure.
quick thing, Christine did speak to neighbors at 31 Montville about the project, and they
Okay.
spoke favorably about it, and they're not here tonight, at least, I don't think they're here tonight, but
We scared them off earlier. They ran out.
they said, go ahead.
They need better spines.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, I want to respectfully disagree with Leslie.
All right, that's why
on
you're
the
here,
sugar
Jim.
maple.
Bless you, bless you.
We are, it's true,
Yeah.
I mean, sugar maples are gonna struggle in the future with heat.
Mhm.
But this is a fairly cool part of town, and this is a private
Yeah, it's
tree.
very hip.
And I'm sure the landscaping is gonna be top of the line. So I think it's probably a good idea to go with, to try a sugar maple, and I'm sure they'll do the best they can to nurture it along. And there are varieties that resist heat a little bit better than others, so
So maybe
that's
you can
something
make that
maybe
recommendation with Kim then?
But,
Okay, well, whatever,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, no, I
and,
mean, tag
um,
rules, so that's fine.
and it's so wonderful to have, you know, that color change in the fall.
They're beautiful trees. It's not
And
question.
the second thing I wanted to just mention is that, and I can't speak for the tree advisory group, but I'm on it, is that there's a traffic island, right, at Pinecroft and
Montvale.
Montvale. That little traffic island could use a little boost. So it's just a thought that if, you know, if
You
you're gonna
have to
have a lot of
If you
landscaping,
overwatered
a
the
lot of
trees or
trucks
something
coming
like
in,
that.
you're gonna have new topsoil coming in, give that little island a boost. Talk to Tom Cullen, the head of DPW, or a tree warden, and then you can give a little boost to the town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Any other thoughts?
That's it right there. Yeah, could use a little,
Yeah.
we're just checking out the island.
Huh?
Could use a little boost.
Our consultant said no.
I was gonna turn to the next. Go ahead.
No, it's an improved
planting plan from what we saw previously.
Okay,
It's fine.
great.
The engineering's fine, and actually, just one thing I kind of want to point out is, what you don't get from the site, this is a very constrained lot, those wetlands, 2 corners. But the site plan doesn't make it feel like that. I don't know if I'm expressing that well, but like, you look at the site plan, usually if I look at a site plan on a very constrained lot, I can tell exactly why it's constrained and what kind of hoops they're jumping through.
Right.
Where all the
This-
contours are stacking up.
Yeah, and the things fit nice, you wouldn't know that, like, because it's that corner lot, like, they're coming in on like 3 setbacks in a like, things don't look forced, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
That was high praise
That sounded like a bravo.
from you, David.
Yeah,
That's what I was praiseworthy as they get.
That is,
It's worth it because it's kind of subtle.
Stunned that you said that.
That's the team. But like, you know, the house is like on almost 3 setbacks, but it doesn't scream that. Usually,
Yes,
when
yeah,
we see that,
they do look forced.
it
yes.
does scream.
Tight.
And people appreciate that, neighbors appreciate that, travelers, other residents appreciate that.
And obviously you listen to our consultants
I
who
didn't have much to
advised
say.
you well.
I don't believe that.
I didn't say, like, honestly, like, it came in, they submitted, that was really about it. Like, the big comment was from the.
Dan and I will take credit if you want
No.
to.
Take
You're not allowed.
Okay, any final comments from the board? Okay. So we should have a decision about when?
January 22nd?
Do we want to close the?
Yeah, do you guys want to close the hearing, or do you want to look at the lights more? Do you want to like see what actually they reduce in path lights, or do you want to say take out 3, take out 4?
How
We
many
got
are
the
there now?
guidelines from you.
Now, path lights, 8.
You're going to reduce that
4,
to
3,
We can
to like
reduce it.
5 or 6, something like
buy or 2?
Huh?
Buy 5 or 6 or 2?
No, to a total of 5.
I was thinking
5.
4.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
We'll make it reasonable.
Make it reasonable.
Yeah.
They
You
want
don't
to
have
take
to
it
see,
out.
you don't
Yeah,
see
well,
every blade
Okay.
of
Won't just be one.
grass.
And you're taking the light off that thing.
No, I'd rather, well, it's up to you, but
Get
I'd
helmets
rather.
on your head,
hold on.
that's easy.
So
So
we're gonna close the
can
hearing?
we just say first off that we would, you will show the town planner, the light fixtures and the changes, and they will be reflected in the decision, correct?
Right.
Okay, all right. In that case, I will
Yeah.
move to close the hearing.
Okay, or a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Let's move on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good work. We are on to new business.
Actually, can we continue the 15 Evergreen?
Oh, that's right.
So Mark Cahill wants to.
Oh, yeah,
continue that.
Evergreen. Well, that's right. So, the deal with Evergreen is,
So he's doing 140 Country as well.
Sorry?
And Mark Cahill's doing 140 Country and 15 Evergreen. For 140 Country, he doesn't have an updated landscape plan, which will be discussed with lighting revisions.
Okay.
He thinks it would be easier just to come here in 2 weeks to get both of those knocked out. This is, the Evergreen is just attic renovation, so we're not pushing the whole back.
right, so we are planning on continuing
Yeah.
Evergreen?
Evergreen, and what's
Do I hear a
And
motion?
140 country you said as well, right?
Yeah, but I want to talk about that when we get back to that.
So, do I hear a motion on continuing Evergreen?
I move that we continue Evergreen until, what, 22nd, you said? 22nd.
Okay, great, and the second? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous?
Okay.
Now we're down to new business.
Yep. Okay,
We're
so,
gonna swap the 2 items, I think, here.
yeah, we will swap the 2 items, so that we look at the open meeting law complaint
Okay,
first.
fantastic.
So, let's see here. Yes, this is, so just to frame this up, we did get an OML complaint regarding the tree discussion at the last meeting. Basically saying that, you know.
Well, actually, I'm gonna take this.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
So, this letter's from me. So we had an open meeting law complaint issued, and we're due to respond to that first, and then
Yes.
to the community, of course.
Today.
And we're due to respond to the state as well. So we put our response together in an email, in a letter, that I'm gonna read. And I've been on the opposite side of these. And I like having full and open communication on it. So I'm just gonna read this, and then you guys can respond to it. Is this your first time seeing it Yeah, the board.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, okay.
Can you
So-
also go over the complaint, what it was?
Yeah, it's described in here. In response to, is this available for the audience? Do you have a copy of
I
it?
have a couple of extra ones.
Yeah, okay, you can do it in the audience.
I actually have one extra.
Great. Yeah, the response is one page, yeah. Yeah, well, you'll see it, maybe I'm.
I didn't see you sign
Right.
regards.
So this is dated tomorrow, January 9th, and it's to the Attorney General, and it CC's the contact for the complaint and the town clerk.
Actually, it's still dated July 8th,
Okay.
so.
And I'll read it now. In response to an open meeting law complaint filed by Kristen Barbieri, filed on January 2nd, 2020, regarding a discussion at the December 11th, 2019 meeting, the planning board discussed the complaint on January 8th, 2020, and issues this letter as a response. The complaint notes that the discussion in question on the motivations for considering work on a potential tree bylaw with a 20-minute presentation by a board member was not listed on the agenda published on the town website. Indeed, there was a technical deficiency in the publishing of the agenda related to this discussion. This agenda item was added to the agenda on December 5th, 2019, after publishing the original agenda on the town website on December 4th, 2019. The description of the agenda on the town website was properly updated to note, quote, amended December 5th, 2019, added tree bylaw update, close quote, and the updated agenda was properly filed with the town clerk. However, due to clerical error by the town planner, the updated agenda was not uploaded to the town website. At the December 11th meeting, one board member noted this technical deficiency and requested discussion be deferred to a later date. Based on the filing of the updated agenda with the town clerk and with no board decision included in the discussion, other board members did not believe continuing was a violation of the open meeting law. Also, knowing that discussion would be fully repeated at a future meeting and eager to hear and promote the discussion for other time-critical reasons, the board chose to continue with the discussion. The board does acknowledge the technical deficiency and the confusion and missed opportunities caused as a result. As a result, we are taking the following actions. The board will, number one, ratify, validate, confirm the above narrative into today's minutes. Number two, add minutes of the December 11th meeting into the January 8th meeting minutes. Three, fully repeat the discussion in question at an upcoming meeting. And four, and lastly, institute double-check procedures between the town planner and the assistant town planner when posting future agendas, and change already posted agendas only in extreme circumstances. This will minimize late changes and eliminate repeat mistakes. All told, we are town representatives and eagerly seek and promote clear communication to and full participation by residents and officials, and we certainly apologize for any error that subtracts from that. That's the
Great.
So, this is letters representing our point of view, so.
I have an addition.
Okay,
You
great.
said it was not listed on the agenda published, nor was it listed on the distributed agenda at the meeting.
At the meeting, great.
So that needs to be noted.
Yeah,
And also, I would say that the majority of the board chose to continue with the discussion because there was one dissenting vote.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so my only other question is, we have these four excellent points.
Yes.
But what happens if the unthinkable happens and this happens again? And we have something that is posted by and due to error doesn't make it to the public meeting and doesn't make it on our printed agenda. Do we say here as number 5, if for any reason something is not on the printed public agenda, we will defer that?
On a posted
On the-
agenda.
yeah.
Let's
So
do that.
can you do
Okay.
that as like a number 5, so that we absolutely have a guideline, if it happens again, that's the end of it?
Right,
We
yeah.
just don't go forward.
Yeah. that's-
Okay.
And also to say only in extreme circumstances, that's really subjective. I think if you just, I don't know, I disagree with saying, only in extreme circumstances. Because for instance, I asked you to put something on the agenda on Monday in a timely basis and you wouldn't put it on. So that was in a timely basis. So that was well within the normal posting time. So what constitutes extreme circumstances? It's too subjective to include there.
What is the normal posting time?
48 hours.
48 hours.
Excluding.
So, I mean, just opening that discussion up a little bit, as I was a resident, if I would look at an agenda and it's always changing, that's frustrating to me, because I look at agenda yesterday, and then
Make your plans.
it changes a bunch, changes 2 or 3 times, it's very frustrating. So, once EMI posts an agenda, I'm very reluctant to change it. I have been, and I probably should have been in that case. But I have the attitude that I am really hesitant to change it, because people have downloaded it, printed it out, have their lives planned, or have a visit planned around it.
When do you normally post? Do you post at 48 or do you tend to post it earlier?
You posted earlier.
Yeah, I try to do it a week in advance.
So people
right.
can get.
Yeah, I try to do it Wednesday, my goal is usually Wednesday, sometimes it goes to Thursday depending on certain.
My discussions with EMI are on the Tuesday prior to that, and we try to lock in the agenda there ahead of time. So it's a week and a day ahead of time, and then he posts it on Friday.
But there must be
So
some reason
I
it's
just
just
want,
48 hours.
Alicia, you to understand, I think you've been left with the impression that I was unreasonable in not accepting a change. That's what EMI knows. I'm very reluctant to change it at the last minute, so just.
Please do not characterize my opinion. I just said that I think that you saying extreme circumstances is too subjective.
What would you like to put
Could you say,
there?
what is absolutely necessary? Is
Yeah.
that
But I mean, for
it's still-
instance, the select board changed the agenda on Monday for Tuesday's meeting.
Yeah.
I objected to that because I think it was outside of the
So what
hours.
words
But
would
so
you
the
like there?
planning board
Can I
changes,
go
I mean,
before we
the
get
select
to-
board changes
Sure,
it.
go ahead.
Let me try something here. I applaud the idea that it's a week and a day before, and that makes sense. And people shouldn't have to work 24 hours, I know it's a 48-hour stint. The town and the state rules allow 48 hours, but maybe the planning board can say, we would like to do it within 48, or, 60 hours, or whatever the magic number is going to be, 3 days, so we know that that's the time frame for changing. Anything of that would qualify
That makes
as
sense.
extreme,
That
and
makes
then we
sense.
could be okay. So are we
Okay.
comfortable with 48? If we
Well,
want to make it
48 's the law.
72?
But
No, but
48's the law, and I know we can set our own process and procedure, but I've also seen times when we have had emergency kind of things. If we, but not urgent, not extreme circumstances, but times when we needed to add something to the agenda because it was very important. And having that 48 hours, which is a fairly short time
Right,
stretch,
right.
gives us a little flexibility. If we say something like 3 full working days,
Right.
we lose that flexibility.
But if we go back to, you wanted the definition
Yeah.
of extreme.
I-
Because one of the things we don't want to get into is, oh, we got 48 hours, I can put it in at 49 hours.
But we don't normally do that.
No, but,
Yeah.
so if we say we'd like to set up our basis as, whatever, 72 hours,
72 hours, just.
and then at that point, and only in extreme circumstances,
Yeah.
that's definitely fine, we
Okay.
go to the 48.
All right.
So that basically
That's a
works,
good-
because what I like to do is at least by Friday, because I
Yes.
want that agenda out so people
Right,
have
you
it
don't have to
before the
worry about it
weekend,
next
If you're
right?
sick on Monday
Right,
morning, you.
people plan it over the weekend.
Right.
People plan it over the weekend, we have reports over the weekend, people can get
Yeah,
that
that's
and
fair.
get theirs, and so I like to have it out at
That's
least by
great.
Friday.
Yeah, and you've got
I think
some
that
green
Monday,
lighting.
which is still timely, that was the window that qualifies as extreme then.
Yeah,
If something has to go
right.
on that Monday,
And it's
we had to add this very thing, not on Monday, but we had to add this very item we're talking about now because of the date we got it and the rules of which when we have to take this up, we had to add this. So that's an example, I think, of, other rules wouldn't allow us to do that.
So on the procedure issue, people felt comfortable with, like, let's make it difficult after Friday to change it.
Yeah,
Let's try to lock it in on Friday.
okay.
I
And-
would like to go with Diana.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, what was really difficult about this situation was that when I was puzzled by it not being on the agenda and I asked, you guys said that, and I'm just a citizen, you guys said that there was a revised one, but that it wasn't here, and that it was a mistake, and that the right one was somewhere else. So I was led to believe that there was actually an agenda that actually had
There was, it was filed with the town clerk.
Yeah.
It
That's
was-
what this says.
But there was not one of these agendas ever in existence that included that meeting.
Actually, I can show
It
you
was-
that one.
if that's what
Just
this letter
wasn't
says, Diana, is filed with the town clerk, but it wasn't posted on the website.
Right, and
That
that's
was-
what
It was
this
posted on the
Felicia pointed
website.
out, it
Exactly.
wasn't,
But
it
not
wasn't,
by,
The other way around, the updated agenda was filed with the town clerk, but not properly posted on the website. That was
Yeah.
technical
so
deficiency.
we didn't have it anywhere to look at. I mean, it wasn't here.
Exactly, that's what this says, that's what this says, yes.
And I assume
And
it
she
was
added
on the
that
written
in.
agenda.
Yeah.
You had it that time.
No,
it wasn't.
and
It
she
wasn't.
specified
It
that it
wasn't
wasn't
here.
available.
It wasn't
on
here.
the agenda, it was in our hands, that was
Right,
distributed.
And I was
we've
told
said
that
that,
it
we've said
was.
all this. Right, go
What's
ahead.
that?
right, you
I
you
was-
pointed that out, that's
I was
right.
told
Yeah.
that it existed and it didn't exist.
It does, this is the one that existed.
When I went on the
With the-
website the next day, it was not
That's
there.
that's what we are all admitting to, it was not on the website.
No, but I mean, this agenda, there was a piece that had the modification on the website that showed that it had been added in, but it wasn't on this agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
You are
That's
right.
what we are all saying
Diane,
right here.
let me try to clarify something. There was two things on the website. There was a notation that said tree bylaw added to the agenda.
Yeah.
But when you downloaded the agenda, it was not included in that, in
Correct.
that PDF.
Correct, but I was told that it was there. When I was told that it wasn't printed out when I asked for it, that this, we just had the wrong version, but that the right version was somewhere else.
Whoever was communicating that to you at the time thought that it was an updated agenda probably. And it was not updated, it was an error. Imai thought he had
Yes.
updated the agenda, and he did not.
The one that wasn't here, the one that was somewhere else wasn't updated. We knew that this one wasn't updated.
Yes, so version 1 was on the website, version 2 was not on the website.
And version
Version two
2
is in the
had the
hand.
meeting in it.
Exactly, and version 2 was in the hands of the town clerk. Yeah.
So
Okay, so
back
back
to this
to
letter. Yeah.
Alicia's issues of extreme. Does anyone have any, I don't have any ideas for wording there. If you have ideas for wording, I'm very open.
Well, I just
Absolutely
think that the
necessary.
What we just
idea,
talked about, yeah.
the idea of narrowing the window, not having
Yeah.
Right.
9 closing the
So,
door 10
someone-
days out, or however.
How many
I'm not
days
sure
is
that we
that?
have to have a procedure built into this letter. Do you want to have the procedure built into this letter?
I don't
Well,
think we
well,
need to
how
do that.
I have a comment, just
Sure.
instead of only in extreme circumstances, just say rarely.
Rarely,
So
okay,
that-
great.
that's not-
Extreme circumstances is kind of makes it
Great.
very
Yeah.
dramatic.
Just
You
rarely.
don't need
Rarely.
drama.
And he might, what you might consider.
Thank you.
For English major, what you might consider doing is just putting somewhere on the website that says, changes were not expected after such and such.
Oh, that,
Yeah,
other
yeah.
thing that we
Yeah, we said-
and I have agreed to, on all agendas, it says agenda subject to change up to 48 hours ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because that'll help people out, knowing
Yeah,
that,
that's
okay,
true.
I'm looking at it, but I should come back
That's a great
with
idea.
48
Yeah.
hours left.
Right.
So can I just have one more thing?
Just, are you got, that's okay, great. Go ahead.
I think that what was difficult is that when it wasn't on the agenda, on the correct agenda, we went ahead and talked about it anyway, even though we were raising this concern. I've never seen that happen before. I've sat here for 20 years, like
Right.
monitoring this, and I've never seen, when something had a question about being on the agenda, Al would just do it the next time. It wasn't like we didn't have to
So we had a
forward.
discussion about that, and that mindset is covered here in this letter.
And we're gonna add the fifth one, that if not on the
Right.
public agenda,
Right.
at the meeting, that's
So
it.
I
people
think
are
I
raising
made, I
concern.
tried to make clear here that we were of the understanding that it wasn't an open meeting violation if it was in the hands of the town clerk. Right, and again, for all the other reasons that we stated here, we felt like it was the best thing to move forward and have the discussion.
Even when people had concerns about it and people weren't informed.
I think I
Yes, because they're
explained
gonna
it.
repeat all the information.
We're gonna repeat the information
So there
and,
is a chance now.
right, exactly.
Okay, that was,
And
that was my concern.
there was a
just
meeting
being
the next week, and I wanted to inspire people at that next meeting with the ideas that were being discussed. That was my mindset, to let you know.
People who are watching it on the screen. I mean, not people that couldn't attend, or maybe they could attend, I don't know.
Right,
It was
a different
very
meeting,
out
too.
of ordinary for this group, that's all I know.
Understood, okay. That's good feedback, and I think that's included here. Okay, so, do we need to, want to approve this?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think that'd be
great.
good.
Do I hear a motion to approve this letter?
I move that we approve the open meeting law complaint response with the modifications noted.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And you will send that letter
So we
to
have
us,
one
each one
abstain.
before it goes out?
Yeah, I can do that.
We have one abstaining.
Who, I'm sorry, Alicia abstained, okay, sorry. So who seconded, sorry, I thought I
I
heard,
did.
Leslie seconded.
Okay, now to the good stuff. The framework for Plan 122 holistic tree discussion. Can you bring up the suggested
Yep.
agenda for,
I wanna make this bigger.
oh, yeah, seems small. Oh, now it seems. Okay, so there were a few tree matters floating around. There was some discussion that we've had here, or I've seen an email regarding DPW procedures, and that had to do with right-of-way trees. And there was some discussions around a possible future proposal to do a tree bylaw and other such things. And I thought, hey, it would be a good thing to do, to have sort of a holistic discussion with DPW and someone from the select board about these matters, and sort of come together as a group.
And tag.
And tag. I'm going to name everybody individually here. So the first step in doing that, the intention was to have motivation on the table for why to do that. That's the reason for the discussion we just had. And then the next step was to meet with those parties that we just named and talk about what would be a meaningful agenda to get this sort of this discussion launched. So we met with, we had a meeting, was it last week, Imai?
It was the 18th, I believe.
Okay. So we had a meeting, okay, several weeks ago, sorry.
Yeah.
With Chris Houston and Leon and Tom from DPW and Lori from TAG, and Imai and I met, and we had this initial discussion, and we agreed that such a holistic discussion would make sense, and then this is the way we began to structure it. And I'm presenting this structure to you of a possible meeting at the next planning board meeting along these lines. So the first thing to discuss is do a redo of that discussion in question, to talk about why are we looking at trees, why now? And the next bullet is to understand DPW procedures for right-of-way trees on public land, their procedures to manage them, and Tom would lead that discussion. And Tom has done good work regarding inventorying all the trees, and then he has procedures for trimming that we'd like to review. I think people would like to talk about arborist participation in his work. They now have an arborist on board. I'm not sure how much of the arborist time is spent on arborist matters.
Do you have
But I
any,
think-
is she invited to come, do you know?
Not sure.
Okay.
We could most likely arrange for that,
Yeah,
not
that
an
would be
issue.
great.
So these are just getting
Town
facts
arborist,
on the
right?
table. She's not a town arborist, it's not the title of the town
No,
arborist.
but she works for DPW, but
She works for town arborist,
Thank you.
she is
That's
an
all.
arborist. So that's where Tom is just stating facts of what his plans are. And then we had the idea for 2 working groups, and I was quite inspired. I thought these were both good ideas. Well, working group number 1 would overall establish guidelines for right-of-way trees. So the start of the process is what he does now, that of course would be thought through, and then his inventory, right? And so eventually work towards actually written guidelines for how to manage the right-of-way trees, and then started with a pilot rather than trying to get something that says, oh, is this going to work across the town, it's going to work perfectly, let's start doing it. We say, no, let's actually come up with a stretch of probably a scenic road and say, let's take these beta guidelines that we have and let's apply it to that stretch of road and see how that works. So we want to talk about doing that.
Can I interject, or do you want to go through the whole?
Let me go through the whole
Okay,
thing
sure,
and
go ahead.
and come back. And then the other thing about this working group, we wanted to talk about the team that would be a part of this working group. So the proposal on the table in the earlier meeting was that someone from the planning board would be on the team, on the working group, someone from TAG would be on the working group, someone from the select board, and we could talk about others, so there could be others. And then we would want to think through who would be the planning board member to be the representative of this group. Okay. So the second working group is private land trees, so recommend all things for private trees, you know. And I've long thought it was a good idea to increase the awareness, you know, of trees and lawns and how to manage things and come up with guidelines or handbooks, that sort of thing. So I'd like to have that discussion. Of course, the bylaw would be a part of the discussion on how we best manage this going forward. And then we would have, the final topics are the same as the last. It's like, okay, what would be the composition of the team? And then what planning board member would participate? And I don't think it has to be a planning board member from here to eternity. I think it could be a tag team. No pun intended there. Yeah, right. And then lastly, I know the planning board had some questions on, okay, what's going on with culverts with respect to trees, what's going on with sidewalks and drainage with respect to trees, and you know, how is that impacting trees? So where that gets spilled into discussion, I'm not sure. We had a quick conversation on that. Maybe that gets spilled into point 2 and it's not a separate point 5. So that's my proposal for this holistic look at trees by this combined group that would be assembling at the time of the next planning board meeting. So, okay.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, I'm done.
Number one, how does this relate to the proposed tree bylaw? And number two, how does this relate to TAG? And would it possibly make sense for one of those working groups to be TAG?
So TAG, Lori was there. Lori liked.
Lori Hess. TAG, not Lori Dent.
Okay, sorry.
That's why
Okay,
we're trying to
thanks.
figure that.
From TAG, she liked this way of thinking. She was part of authoring it. And so she wants to participate in each of those groups. She wants TAG to participate in working group 1, working group number 2. Not to speak for her, but my thought is that TAG would appreciate the fuller participation and not be isolated. You know, participate with the planning board and the partnership with the select board. That's my interpretation. But the other thing is where the bylaw is in bullet number 4. The bylaw, the efforts of the bylaw, considering the bylaw, looking at what other towns are doing, all that sort of thing, is the work of the working group number 2.
Okay.
They would take that and run with it. And then they would report back to the planning board, select board, et cetera, as they make progress along the way.
In working group number 1, with right-of-way trees, is there a possibility or the intent that it also covers town forest trees and other municipal trees?
Those are not included in the inventory, so at this point I would say no, that wasn't the focus of this.
Well, okay, then I would suggest that it takes that on, because the inventory is fairly limited. I mean, it's basically right-of-way trees, and there's a whole canopy issue which Weston is facing as far as the health of that, and whether the canopy trees are in better or worse shape than the inventory trees which are there. I think that's important to the health of the entire tree population in Weston. The other one is if we do, and hopefully we will include those trees, and a member of the Concom, I think, should also be invited to sit on it.
So you're talking about inventory of all town?
No, but I think, but I think that we can.
Wow.
You're not suggesting
No,
inventory,
I'm
you're
not.
saying that's the sort of the domain of the
The
working group,
domain,
right? Yeah.
and the other part, which is, I don't know if Nina wants to talk about what came up at TAG today, about the canopy and the side.
Yeah, I just would want to wait till I hear all of you.
Okay, one of the things that came up was the reduction of the canopy itself, and you can do that with Google Maps and aerial and iTree and a number of other things. So we can gauge how much canopy we're losing in Weston. And I mean, these are the sort of baselines we were talking about in order to establish, are we in good shape, are we in bad shape, where are we headed? And so it's not just the right-of-way trees, it's also all the trees are gonna get cut with the 40B developments and people, on private land, and where is this all, what's culmination? So I just think there's a broader scope out there that this is a good working group to take that under their wing.
So I think that you should bring that up at the meeting and say, is that the
Yeah,
demand of
sure.
this working group?
And if not, how can we establish that
Right,
it might
yeah,
be?
yeah. I mean, I would, like I said, I was inspired by the people in the room. I was inspired that they wanted to have a structure to move this forward. And I was inspired that they were inspired to do it, you know, to participate. Everybody felt it was a real priority, so.
So I do have one question. These are all sort of the regulars on committees. And I wonder if it would be reasonable to ask for a citizen volunteer.
That's great.
On one
Yeah.
of these. Just-
Garden.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not garden.
I know.
But, you know, somebody,
Yeah.
they want to do. But I just think we have some very concerned citizens in town and who aren't officially on tag or anything else. And also, it would be a chance to hear somebody who maybe wasn't all about trees. Sure. And
Yeah.
see what they felt.
Right.
And why they felt that way, and how we could work around their concerns.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Again,
Both.
Yeah, for both
the
groups.
makeup of the team is a part of the next
Yeah.
discussion. Bravo for next week. Any comments on the agenda for next week?
Yeah, I have concerns. Obviously, it's adding 2 new tree groups. So I guess that's my biggest puzzle about it is,
The delusion.
yeah, 3 tree groups. It's just, it's a
diluted.
lot. It seems like a lot, and there's, everyone's time is very precious. So it seems like it may be less efficient than I'd like to see these decisions being made, but I kind of agree with you, Tony, that the more, you know, if there's really genuine interest and these people who are assigned to these committees really do their job and they really care about accomplishing these things, then
Well, Tom has
I
the
can't
job.
complain about
Sure.
that.
On working group number 1, are you done? Did I interrupt you?
What was that?
Are you done?
No, I
Okay.
wasn't quite done, but.
Okay.
But it was fine.
On working group number 1, I mean, Tom has a job to do, and he's doing it. And some people don't like certain aspects about how he's doing it, and he's open to suggestions. And so this is the structure for him to be open to suggestions and for people to contribute those suggestions. That's the way I looked at working
Yeah.
group number 1.
Yeah.
And working group number 2 was kind of what you were thinking about mostly, I think, with the bylaw effort, just expanded slightly. To realize that, okay, it's not just about bylaw, but, you know, bylaw is certainly a key part of it, that's
Yep.
all.
Increasing awareness got my, got my eyes open because
Yeah.
that's exactly what TAG has been doing.
Yeah,
is
right,
Awareness,
right.
ever
Yeah.
since we were founded,
Yes,
when a forest was removed from town
Yeah.
to build the tank.
right,
So that's why we got established in
Yeah.
2004.
that's great.
So, I'm a little afraid of dilution of all these
Right.
efforts because there's 3. That's mainly it. But if these are these public meetings? I'm concerned about that. Are they open
The
to-
working group will decide how they run their own meetings, so, I mean, no working group I've ever been in has been like a private, people have been forced out of the meetings, and whether it's recorded, their minutes and those sorts of things, the working groups can decide.
But posting is important, because then
That's,
people
that's
can
what I
come.
wonder. How
Right,
are
right,
regular
making
citizens
it,
who are very interested in,
accessible as
Well-
right, days are-
how are they going to know that
Okay.
there's a meeting? Is it
That's
gonna
for the
be-
working group to decide, and you can also say, I'm going to run the working group in a way where I'm gonna check into public meetings. So we'll report progress back to the planning board, and report progress back to the select board.
Okay.
And that's how citizens can participate, but that's for them to decide.
Right, okay.
I'm trying to help, bring people, because like I say, Tom has work to do, and I'm trying to help him ask for and receive input.
Yes, that he does.
And he's open-minded, so.
Yep. And the addition of Jackie Jackson, the new arborist, is gonna be amazing. So
Yeah,
we met her
yeah,
today,
right.
so
Yes.
Yeah, right.
that'll be great. I just hope she has time to come to these meetings as well.
Yeah,
We'll
right,
clone her.
Yeah, clone her.
right.
I did want to mention your number 5, culverts, sidewalks, drainage. To me, that's all part of the right-of-way, and it's also part of your, you pay attention to those things. We're getting more and more huge pipes in the streets, and curbing, granite curbing, and sidewalks, of course. And I think all of that, we are just learning about the effect of that on canopy. Canopy's still pretty new to a lot of people in town. They haven't really a clue what canopy's all about, and the fact that, you know, you can actually have 10 degrees cooler under a proper canopy is something that we're all gonna be, you know, really concerned about. How do we preserve it? So, to me, a traffic and sidewalk person should be invited.
Oh, good answer. That's a good answer.
As, would it be number 1 or number 2 committee? It would be number 1.
I think we're number one, yeah, they're.
Because it's the right of way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
So if one of them could come, I think that would be great for them as well as for the group.
Right.
To have their
So you might, we
input.
could invite them
Yep.
to the next meeting,
Yep.
Are there ways that we can minimize the effect on canopy, that sidewalks and curbing and drainage and manhole covers and all those things that we're seeing going in now?
Because that's the first time we saw that up by the reservoir. You know, we've never seen drainage automatically be added,
Right.
what that does and how we deal with it. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So you see the two groups being set up next meeting on the 22nd?
yeah, that's what I would say,
And
yeah.
they're quite different, it seems like.
I think so.
So there'll be some crossover with Lori Hess, because she'll be
Yes.
on both, you said.
Or you
Well,
guys
that-
tag chooses who's
Tag
gonna be on,
chooses, right.
And like I said, it doesn't, I think you can have rotating members.
And are they temporary committees or?
I think so. Oh, definitely.
They're
Oh,
they're
the
working
goal is
groups.
to establish the guidelines, right?
Yeah.
Number
Okay.
one, and work with Tom throughout the year, however long it happens to be. I'm guessing a year.
Yeah.
You know, to settle on the guy. He's gonna test the guidelines. He's gonna trim some trees based on the guidelines, you know. And then maybe in a year, you've got the guidelines and the group is, you know, is done with their
So
work.
this pilot project would be a section of roadway,
Yeah.
which hasn't been pruned in a long time or something, so we can
Yeah,
see
Yeah.
how
Before and after.
it should be done, is that the idea?
Right, well, I think, I don't wanna go too far into it,
Yeah.
because I want Tom and you guys to
Yeah,
decide,
yeah,
but
Tom.
what was discussed was that you choose a stretch, and you have the guidelines that you actually walk the stretch of land, or of road, and you say, so how would these guidelines affect the trees that I'm seeing right now? So the dimensions, right, that he's trimming, for example, that they talked about, you know, so how would those dimensions affect this? And then you would say, okay, that sounds good here, and work on this street, try it on another street, and then convince yourselves that, by the way, these are good guidelines to use throughout the town.
Yeah. And then the committee is dissolved.
Yes, yes.
Is that right?
Yes, if you want, I mean, it's, oh, you're worried about it being more time.
Well, it just
Okay.
seems to me that it's something a town crew, tree
Yeah.
crew, has to figure out and do themselves. I'm not sure it's a citizen's thing. You know, the actual act of pruning a tree, there are guidelines, there's state guidelines, there's federal guidelines. I mean, it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel here, it's,
Well, then it may be quick. I
And,
mean, people
yeah,
had
so I-
concerns about
I
what was
don't see
happening.
it as a big citizens committee thing, that's my
You see, I
thought.
think the problem was that the guidelines, even the basic guidelines weren't being followed. A couple of examples.
A couple of examples.
A couple of
right?
examples, and obviously it was an educational
Oh,
process.
I sense there's more trimming to come.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's what I said,
yeah.
so.
And also that's
Because I'm giving you guys what I think is a chance to participate a little bit more in those decisions.
Right.
If you want to take advantage of it, you can. We don't have to have these working groups, it was a suggestion.
Yeah.
Because the swath that was announced, the 3x16 or whatever,
Right.
is a little bit more intense than we've ever seen
Right.
enacted.
Yes.
And that's standard, if you want to say other towns do it.
Yeah.
That's, I think, what the working group has to have a discussion for.
I
That's
see.
why we should
Okay.
have it here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
What was the name of that you were?
3x16, it's 16.
Somewhere, I don't know where that
3
came
foot
from.
in
and
and
bubbled to the
16
top.
foot high.
That bubbled
Oh,
underneath.
anything
that
can be
was
cut.
pruning on the.
Yeah, but I don't want to go too far.
Yeah, that's a discussion. So-
Substance, yeah.
But then also we're dealing with crews that come from Eversource, we're dealing with storm crews that come in, so there's a lot we can't control, right?
No, but there, I mean, then you can differentiate between emergency and trimming we did, like when we walked around and we said, yes, you can take these trees out, you can take those trees out. And, you know, they're pretty good about what they do, but it doesn't hurt to come closer and closer to a town standard, and when you do work in town, you know, that's what happens, whether you get a piece of paper in order to work in town, or, I mean, these are, I don't wanna get into it, it's, we have a chance now to try and homogenize it to a higher, better practice.
Tom is looking for these guidelines. He feels like he'll do a better job and we'll be happier. That's what I felt about it, so, and.
My last comment is just the word holistic, kind of just, it's just too amorphous. I don't know what
I
it
was gonna
really
ask for a
says.
definition of
I think a lot of people are
holistic
snickering
in
about
this.
it, what is this holistic tree? I get this
Right,
all
yeah.
the time.
Tree man.
Yeah, it didn't mean to say, the holistic was meant to imply the plant rather than the tree, right?
Oh, the plant, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Strategy.
Yeah.
It's a
So could I
holistic
just have a
plan
comment?
for trees.
Yeah.
So I, as part of the TAG group, I've been
Sure.
working for several months, and Leslie came and helped me, working on sort of a drafting of a possible tree bylaw, and getting information from lots of other towns about what they
That's great.
do for bylaws, et cetera. And part of this process, at some point, we were thinking that it would be useful to have a questionnaire for the citizens in Weston,
Perfect.
to ask them how to, explore different areas about what their opinions are about a bylaw and what it should entail and how they would feel about different aspects of pruning on the right of way, et cetera, or, having requirements about what kind of trees they could cut down on their property, and, just exploring the general citizens' opinions about those to guide us in making up a bylaw.
I think that's a great idea. It's the best idea I've heard today. I think people would really be interested in filling it out, and I think you'd learn a lot, you'd learn a lot. It'd be great.
I think that
I think that would be, I'd add that to one of the working group's first priority.
I think that's part of the work group, absolutely. Because we want to be transparent, and this goes back to what Sue was saying, you want to pull in, the people who aren't on the committees.
Right, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't want to spring something on them and
Yeah.
then suddenly they say, oh, I've got to do this, or I can't do this.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, always.
I really like that you've started to study other towns and what they've done, what's been successful, what's been not so successful. That's great.
Barbara's got quite a bit of work on that.
Yeah, that's great.
But you helped me also.
Yeah.
Team effort, Rob.
Diane?
Would it be relevant to have a SWIPA member on the working group number 2? Because I feel like so much of the tree cutting comes from managing stormwater,
Right.
and they're on the stormwater committee.
How,
Is it Tom
Tom
Collins for
Cullen,
stormwater?
you need to do that? Or are you talking about?
Is Tom okay too?
Is he on working group 2, or is he on working?
Oh, there'll be someone from DPW.
On both?
Oh, you're saying on number 2?
Yeah, for the private property, because a lot of the private
Oh, that's a
property
good
trees are cut down because of the
Stormwater
SWIPA rules.
management.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's an idea.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
good point.
Okay.
Good answer. So again, the point of tonight's discussion is just to,
Correct.
to inform you about what happened at the meeting and then get your opinions on the agenda and make sure you're comfortable with the agenda. Does that sound good? The agenda's good?
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
So this will basically be on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Yes,
Is this
exactly.
the
For the
first thing we
discussion.
have?
It's a holistic discussion on this week.
Yeah. So is this first on the agenda on 122?
Yeah, because I think this is gonna have
Right.
draw on the most people.
It's only, what, like an hour?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
Just
think.
trying to get a feel. So when we add certain things to it, I'm just wondering to make sure.
I'm thinking
that
that's gonna go on
the agenda
for-
doesn't get very long.
So, I mean, well, we
Yeah,
only
much more
continue
to
2
it.
things to it,
With a
The
lot
only
of-
actual other things so far on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, good.
right.
yeah.
Okay, so 140 Country, you were gonna update us, you said?
Yeah, so originally they came with a presentation about no tree removals. There's actually 3 trees that are coming out right along the pool area, so I think we'll have to continue that discussion instead of having a decision. I don't know if that's the, open?
Well, see, this
We closed
is,
the public hearing.
this is what we talked about, we closed the
Yes.
public hearing and then they wanna change. So to follow, if we're gonna really follow this practice, what we would do is approve it with no tree removals, and then they would come and ask for an amendment to remove those trees, and we would consider it separately. That's kind of the process of, that we set out, like, when we talked about 162 Highland, about not
Yeah.
having
So what was wrong with that?
a stream of amendments.
Makes
Nothing,
sense.
nothing's wrong
Yeah,
with that.
that
We,
makes perfect sense, yeah.
okay, so that's what we'll do, we approve.
So why aren't we approving it tonight then?
We should.
Oh, because he still doesn't, he hasn't gotten all the documents he needs for this.
Oh, it's a separate
decision.
issue.
The COA we
Well,
can
he
approve.
can't do anything because he can't take those trees, he's not gonna be able to put the pool in anyway, so there's nothing that's gonna be able to expedite the process for.
If we wanted to, can you reopen it? I'm just wondering which is easier in the long run. Is it easier, can we reopen it? And is it easier to reopen it or is it easier?
I get a little nervous with reopening
Okay.
because a hearing requires notice
Okay.
with like,
All right, then
in a
that's the
me-
perfect
So
answer. That's why
what's the
I asked.
process we're following on this going forward? I didn't quite
So
understand.
it's like an application, that's how we're doing.
yeah, so
Is it
we'll
entirely
consider
Another notice, another 4 weeks or so until they can.
another mailing at least,
Yeah.
another mail notice, but we wouldn't put it into, a continuing I think would take longer because you need to we may need to publish that notice in a
You
newspaper.
don't need to publish on,
Amendments, we don't need to publish in a newspaper, we just send out mail notices
To the abutters.
to the abutters, yeah.
Direct abutters,
Yeah,
right?
so the
so that would
notification,
have to be on the 22nd amendment, right?
the amendment wouldn't be on the 22nd, but we could probably handle the amendment on the 5th. Because the other thing is, we wouldn't want to amend a decision that isn't there yet. So we'd want to finish a decision at this point and then handle an amendment, because we closed the
Yeah,
hearing.
that's what I assumed we were doing.
Yeah.
I heard that we weren't doing it. So,
And it could be a memo too, right, or we could ask for the amendment or react.
Yeah.
Aren't we gonna then approve the COA tonight?
We'll see, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Dana, but my understanding on this COA too was that he hasn't gotten the other necessary information,
Yeah, so
so
like
the
there's
lights.
landscaping next to the driveway, he wants to approve, the post lights, he showed 2 big post lights, we're gonna produce that for the caps. He hasn't sent me a picture on that yet, so we're still waiting for those.
So
We can
you have an
approve it
incomplete,
pending.
you have an incomplete submission.
we can still review and approve the decision with the condition that you see that documentation.
That, I guess
If we don't, there's no rush.
Yeah, there's no rush.
It's a rush.
I mean, I can still
Yeah.
honor up
Rush.
the landscaping plans, I don't know if that's sufficient.
He has it
I haven't
done in
reviewed
his
it.
eyes, yeah. Why are we
Yeah,
rushing?
exactly.
And he's not gonna be
the
able
one
to
who
do
wants
anything
quickly,
with this
let's get
COA.
the
He's
information.
gotta
Without the streets on the
do
road.
his part.
Fair enough.
All right, moving on, Route 30 reconstruction.
Whoa, that was such an interesting
That was
letter.
an eloquent letter.
So yeah, we did get a
Sunday is
letter,
reading that, yeah.
we did get a letter, on the Route 30 reconstruction
You
from,
can read it, I'm sorry.
let me go back to it.
No, the one for favor, yes, but the other one, I did just too much stuff going on.
So this was a pretty long letter, and honestly, I haven't had time to absorb it, but just to frame it back to where we were. This was a letter a while back that I had asked to be, the board to endorse support of the multi-use path for Route 30. This is Mr. Mercury's response to our support of it. You know, since we're obviously not making a decision on that letter tonight, they wanted more time, I think, you know, we can take this, you folks who wanted to do some changes can take it under consideration. I talked with Steve Fogg about some of these things today, and, you know, he has some input he wants to give to it, and, you know, I wanna look into some of this as well, that I haven't looked into, so, you know, I think right now we can take this into the record, it's a bit lengthy to read out loud,
That'd be long.
but,
But the points that they raise
Very good.
are, yes, and,
Could you just tell us what the points are, just
Yeah.
briefly?
this is really hard to do. But there's a public safety issue because they want, I guess, there's something to do with a shared path, 13 by 15 foot wide path, 10 feet in actual pavement from the edge of the roadway pavement into front yards of dozens of properties on South Ave, from Natick to Newton.
Yes.
Okay, now that is a long
It's
stretch.
basically a bike lane.
Yeah,
It's
I've
a-
been to a lot of those traffic and sidewalk meetings.
Yeah, okay, and they talk about there are at least 47 driveways and roadway intersections, childcare center, numerous high volume, high vehicular speed. We've asked Howard, whatever it is, I want to say Howard Stern, but I know
Howard
it's-
Stein Hudson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I do too.
Yes, to provide locations of actual shared use path that have been constructed and implemented using street frontage. It is our understanding that there are none. So this would be an experiment, basically, that there are none. So that's a big deal.
It's a red flag.
A red flag, and then across, once again, loss of trees and encroachment onto property. Since the layout nearly 100 years ago, property owners at the route have enjoyed mature trees as screening from the busy road, also part of the canopy. They don't say that. blah, 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 removing hundreds, if not thousands of mature trees, disturbing the historic stone walls, and encroaching onto property that the town has allowed owners to use and maintain for decades, is a considerable change.
Right, didn't we, when this first came up, because we got plans that showed just sort of a blue line on the map,
Yeah.
we said, we're not commenting on this until we see what you're doing. So as far
Then
as.
we did.
Yeah, and then we're glad, and I thought the letter that Imai put together just basically said we're in favor of bicycle transportation, and then he was gonna add to it, but in no way are we endorsing the whole plan, because there's a lot of stuff to look at and figure out.
Right,
So I think what he's saying is exactly what our fear was,
right.
which is why we did not endorse the plan until we see how are you gonna deal with all this?
They also bring up the fact that there's insufficient involvement from the affected residents. The Traffic and Sidewalk Committee had not been held to present the proposed, have not been held to present the proposed scope of the project and have not been widely publicized. Affected residents are likely not even aware of the significant impact this project will have on their property and their daily trips. Goes on and on about that. Changes of this magnitude and impact should be thoroughly discussed with affected property owners. And then, lack of data. That was the big thing. This is an experiment and,
Right, yeah, those are all the reasons.
yeah.
A blue line we're not gonna endorse.
Right, so this was,
Imai, will this letter be on the website with tonight's
This should be on the
meeting?
website.
So Barbara, you could see this letter.
Yes, I did, like
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, because it's very detailed, it has raised a lot of valid points. It's worth reading.
yeah.
Right, I might have shared some of those points,
Yes.
if I knew what they were.
Right,
Yes.
yes, exactly. So, there's that.
Why is this under decisions?
Yeah.
Because that's where the letter was last, and it was,
Okay.
we were gonna get, folks wanted to take it home, edit it, and then
Okay, and
You
what's
know.
the status of the letter at this point?
no action on it,
Yeah.
basically.
Not after this.
Okay, so.
We have insufficient data.
I'm hearing that, what do we want to do with this matter?
Well, I mean, from what it sounds like, we're not getting endorsements, so
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I'd like to rebut it, honestly. I don't agree with a lot of what he's saying there. I think there's
these
rebuttal.
people,
Yeah, I think there's rebuttal points to a lot of that I can find,
It
but,
sounds substantial enough that we should have it as
Yeah.
an agenda item.
yeah, well, we did. We had it in as
Yeah.
agenda item,
But none of that was
But-
presented.
but no, none of that was represented.
But what was
I mean-
it, an agenda item on a blue line on a map? So
Yeah.
it wasn't, it wasn't.
So, I mean, what I'm
No,
hearing from you
That's what I
folks,
mean, there was nothing to.
what I'm hearing from you folks is you wouldn't wanna endorse anything until you see the actual plans, right?
Insufficient data,
Yes.
So, okay.
insufficient data, I'd really like to look at.
But it might make sense at some point to bring in, both sides, because I'd love to hear your side of it. I mean, he has a very good point, and have a discussion.
Yeah.
Who would
Whoever it
be-
is proposing this, I don't remember who it is, who's proposing this?
DPW.
It's,
So maybe we need to have another meeting.
Well,
actually.
Howard Stein Hudson could present to
Exactly.
us, just like they did to the Traffic and Sidewalk Committee.
Yes.
didn't
That
Howard
would be
Stein
very
has,
helpful.
Hudson also presented the police station when we were talking about, I think it was,
Marion Street, sidewalk.
it was Marion Street, and also, wasn't it
Yeah.
also to do on Case Estates land and stuff like that? Weren't they
Yeah.
talking
Yeah, that was
about
also
that?
Howard Stein.
And so I-
And 751, 761 Boston Post Road.
Right,
Yeah.
and I
We've got
don't
to figure
recall
this
them
out.
being, we had to, there were a lot of things
Yeah.
that once we got, I'm just thinking of the gate, just the gate at Case
Yes,
Estates.
exactly.
Remember, they were gonna have like the standard gate, and it was you all who said, wait a minute.
Stop,
So, they're not necessarily good on details.
yes.
So
To present.
what jurisdiction do we have over this?
Nothing, we don't have approval rights over this
Right.
at all. This
Right.
was basically, you
So
know,
why, who's motivating us to write a
Me.
letter?
Imai.
You were.
me, yeah.
But
Oh,
so
okay.
this is not a scenic road?
Huh?
Post Road is not a scenic road?
It's not a scenic road under
This is
the,
number
under
of
Article
routes,
23.
Yeah. number
So
of
there's
routes.
no approval for removal of trees or
Right.
stone
How
wall.
about, okay, right, so do we have, even if for information, I think it'd be great if they came to us.
Mhm.
Even
I-
whether
I'm
or
not,
we have-
what I'm going to question here is what motivates them to even come to us?
What motivate?
I'm just trying to
And
understand.
why were we asked to write a letter of recommendation?
A, why would we ask for the version, and B, if we had concerns, why are they gonna show up and listen to our concerns? I'm not saying they're bad guys or good guys.
So, who, DPW or?
Yeah, exactly, or whomever is
Howard Stein.
sponsoring the project. If it's not our jurisdiction,
So you're asking why Howard Stein Hudson would come here and talk to you?
yeah, are they
We'd
gonna
like to see
pay
it.
for a?
I don't know if they're gonna pay for that, that's
Yeah, I
not
don't
something.
think they're
Is this DPW or is this the select board?
Well, I mean, ultimately, the select board has to endorse it as, you know, commissioners of the roads, but
Right,
it's a DPW initiated project. Projects like this are usually DPW initiated.
right.
Did they ask for a recommendation?
So, no,
Did
they
ask you to
haven't.
write what you've written?
So, no, well, no, in discussion with them on the path, and I'm talking with Tom, and wanting to support basically the bicycle network that's going on through the region, I said, let me take it to the board and see if they would support it. And support putting up the path, because there was these folks who were basically, you know, resistant to it.
Yeah.
This
So
one-
I don't think you're gonna get the board's interest.
I don't think I am either, I think that's become fairly clear.
DPW can come and talk to us, just from their town employees. We're a town board, can't they come and tell us what they're planning to do?
I'm saying what motivates them to come before us, if they
The fact that
know,
they're town employees.
well, they don't have, I mean, they've got other things to do.
Let's go back. It's going to have a great impact on the town whether or not we actually have local jurisdiction or not. I would like to get educated, however that is, whether it means I have to go to traffic and study and watch it there, I will. Because I think it would be
Yeah.
helpful for us to say, select board, you know, we are looking at this and we're extremely concerned about this. Please be aware, you know, we're sort of like a group of concerned citizens under a different umbrella. And you know, weighing in on it.
You might, maybe you guys could find out, you and Dana could find out if it's on traffic and sidewalk agenda at all. You know, if they're gonna ever discuss it, then maybe.
They have a few times.
Very
I-
frequently.
They're frequently, oh, so
Yes.
we need some, maybe
I'm-
we need to
I'm-
watch some of their meetings, are they telling us?
I'm
No,
hesitant
they're not.
for
You have to
us
ask
to
them
offer
to
an
tell them.
opinion, because we don't have the full picture, not that I agree or disagree with anything you
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
But unless someone comes here willingly, even if we invite them, and we get the full story from them and the back and forth, I'm hesitant to offer
could I-
an opinion one way or another.
Could I just weigh in on this, because I live very close to
Sure.
Route 30, and I've been going to a lot of these meetings, so some of the more recent meetings, Howard Stein Hudson hasn't come because they haven't finished completing the changes that were requested. So as you said earlier, Imai, this whole plan seemed to originate because people wanted to be able to bike on Route 30, and it's a very busy road.
Mhm.
And so the suggestion was that Howard Stein Hudson should then make up a plan that would be consistent with the state guidelines. So as I have seen the plans over months now, when I look at this huge plan covering a mile or so, when I think about how it will look when it's finally finished, it's gonna be a major change in that road, which used to be like a country road, and now we've got the Route 30 Wellesley Street intersection, which looks like something out of Boston. And, you know, now they're gonna change the whole, you know, side of the road, changing, as you said, cutting down trees, changing stone walls, and it's gonna be a total change in the town. And so I would like there to be more education of people outside of the few who go to the traffic and sidewalk committee, because I think people should realize what a change this is gonna be. So,
And if we really need it.
and they're gonna be changing all these intersections
It
to
sounds
be,
like
it just,
I think we really need it.
well, I
That's,
think
that's
it-
my opinion, that's why I
there-
thought
there-
this was important enough to
Okay,
bring
well,
up.
there is a discussion.
I really hate to get into a lot of
Yeah.
detail, I mean, I'm fine hearing opinions, but
We
We're
need
gonna
to
have
hear
to-
it's not our
Should we-
jurisdiction and we don't have full
Well-
set of information.
but you're a planning board.
Yeah.
You
But that's
should
not- I
be
mean, we do
thinking
have- we
about
don't
the
have
overall appearance of,
We don't have jurisdiction on this project.
On
It's
stone
Route-
walls in the right of way?
It's Route 30.
Oh, right, we
It's a
don't. I
massive,
forgot it's.
it's not
Right.
our road.
I mean, we can show up to the Board of Selectmen and issue citizen comments, you know, that sort of thing.
But this
Or
is
we
the
can
kind of
ask
thing the
Board of
citizens of
Selectmen-
the town need to get
Well,
together.
we can ask,
If we have time on the agenda. if-
Oh, yeah, it probably will for Lake Park, no,
For
I don't think it does.
funding or anything?
If we have time on the agenda, it would be really nice to take 15 or 20 minutes hear what Imai has to say, hear what Barbara has to say, hear what the thing, and just get a feeling for where it's at, and if Howard Stein is doing a little bit too much highway thinking rather than local roads thinking, because that is one of the things I have seen in the past. And I think, you know, it might not be perfect for Boston, you know, things, but at some point you squeeze it down and it gets bigger. You know, if you can miss them, like we did on the Ash Street Walk, you can squeeze it down in order to get past a couple of trees, let's do that.
Right. If you can create a rustic gate, we don't have to
Yeah,
use the
so
big.
I think these are hopefully decision, or recommendations we can make, whether it's through the select board, or I'll sleep better at night.
All right, so where do we stand right now on this? We need to hear his
I think-
side, we need to hear another
I
side.
think your first thing is you wanted to wait till we get better plans.
Okay.
So let them develop it further.
The one thing I worry about with that is I've seen that happen on other projects in the same team, and when it happens with the family.
And then it's done?
Right, they say it'll cost too much money to come back and have the town work on it.
Right,
That's
so
exactly
that,
right, they've said
that's,
it before.
that's most disconcerting, so.
Well, I can
I'd like to
check,
see
I can
what
check
they
with
have.
Steve and see when they could come here for a discussion.
It'd
If
be
they
much
can or will,
appreciated.
or,
Or if we go there, or we'll just, as you say,
Yeah,
watch the
find out,
TV.
or find out when they're meeting, let us know, please, so those of us who are, have time on our hands.
I was gonna say, those people with no life.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
so,
Right, moving on.
And investigate it further.
I'm not fully supportive, but of course, if people want to have this 15-minute conversation back and forth, do you want to plan that for a future meeting?
yeah, that would be a future meeting. I wouldn't wanna do it on the 22nd and maybe not even the 5th, but.
I'm also, I'll tell you my concerns there, because we're not getting the full picture, right? Because, so, when we ask for things to be reviewed, we require, you know, a whole
Yeah.
checklist of documentation, and we say we can't make a decision until we have the full set of information. So, this meeting will not have the full set of
It won't.
information from either side. So, I'm just
But
wondering
also remember.
what we can accomplish in the 15 minutes. The other thing that I'm worried about, if it's on the agenda, people will come to the meeting and say, oh, it's my chance to hear about this thing, and to comment, and A, they're not gonna hear their full story, and B, their comments are to a group that doesn't have any power over the project.
Right.
So that's why I hesitate putting this agenda item.
The second point is very valid.
Yeah,
Fair enough?
It's misleading.
Yeah.
so, that leaves us where?
I'd like EMI reaching out to DPW and saying, would you be open to a session where you get planning board feedback on this project?
So, but what does that mean? I mean, open to a session, does that mean?
They come and present, as Steve had
Okay.
asked, as Steve had requested, and we see where that leads us.
But I thought you said, you were just saying you didn't want
Right.
that to happen.
No, I'm saying if the parties are here, if the,
Oh, okay,
if
all
the
right.
engineering firm is here and presenting what's really happening.
They can answer
We were
for it,
talking
okay.
about Barbara and Imai
Oh,
presenting
okay.
both sides, that I didn't
Oh,
mind.
that,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
No,
but
you-
if
you were
you
talking
have the
about
full-throated
DPW, yeah.
presentation
Right.
where the guy says, here's what I'm doing,
Right.
and he's up to taking questions,
But it has to be more than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
no, exactly,
Yeah.
that's my point.
Right, I
That's
mean,
my-
because
Let's
that's
take a
probably
look
an
and see
hour
where the-
discussion.
And I would, if I were DPW, I would hesitate to do that, because why am I presenting to the planning board? You know, I've got other things to do and other approvals to get. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Well, he can ask,
Yeah.
Always ask, yeah.
he can ask. And of course, everybody can show up and to the follow-on meetings that are happening now.
Mhm.
But wait, as long as they don't meet
Well,
Wednesday night.
we're televised, so there's,
Yeah, but we
Tia,
have three
Chaplin.
people watch this.
Tony, your second point is still valid, even if it's an hour discussion. If we don't have any purview.
Oh, I'm saying, but they'll be talking to DPW will be there, the engineering
Okay.
firm will be there.
So at least
People
it'll be
that can take their
educational.
input and do something with it are there.
And
That's
it's
my
at least
point.
educational for anybody who wanted to come by.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
So, excuse me, I just looked up, the next traffic and sidewalk committee meeting is the 22nd,
Oh,
Wednesday night.
there you go.
So it's the
That's
same
us.
night.
Yummy,
as
we can have a
planned.
Yeah, and
holistic
so,
Route 30 discussion.
Yeah, so they'll probably be doing the discussion of Route 30 then.
Well, we have a meeting.
All right, so we
and-
can
We have
have
a
one,
meeting.
we can have one on
Here.
February 5th.
Yeah, maybe
We can do it a week or two.
yeah, we wouldn't have it on the 22nd anyway.
Anyway,
Yeah, right.
We have
We got a
a,
lot to do.
That's good. Well, that was a good one. It was
Well,
under
it
a
was
simple,
interesting.
under a
I
simple
know.
topic of
Yeah.
decision
Right,
Route 33
yeah.
construction.
Yeah.
Okay, Imai, it's yours. Take us
Okay, town planner report, now we get to the fun part of the agenda. Okay, so coming up, site visit on the 14th to 13 Pigeon Hill. And then on the 21st to 100 Highland before our meeting on the 22nd.
Hold on, slower, slower,
Oh,
slower. 14th, what?
14th, Pigeon Hill.
Okay.
And what is that about?
And what time, are we still doing
Those are the
it?
trees they took down. when-
They have taken down more trees illegal.
Oh, are they going, Rufus go ask. And what time is this going to be?
10 o'clock.
Are we going to talk about moving that at all, or is that still going where it is?
No, we haven't talked, we have had some ideas for having them on different days.
Yeah. And how many more trees do they take down?
I looked at it
3 or
today.
4, I think.
There were 4, I think on the map, I looked at it today, at your map that you posted.
And did we find that out, or did they come in and commit to it?
No, it was
Nope.
when we were at the neighbor's house.
The neighbors came in,
Neighbors stopped.
the neighbors called us up the day it was happening.
Wow. And you couldn't stop it?
John went out immediately and stopped them, but the trees were down.
Wow.
And then I went back with John and
Okay. See you all next Tuesday. Who can go next Tuesday?
I'll be
I can.
I'll be
I'll
there.
be there.
I'll be there. Can't hold it too.
And you guys,
Yeah, I think you gotta be here, or I
Yeah.
guess.
You could just drive by.
there's 4 of us.
But if you look on the link on that they posted, you
Yeah.
can see the map of where the trees were,
And you
Yeah.
go.
and then you
No.
can just take.
No, I'm sorry, the 21st is what, please?
100 Highland site visit there.
Oh, that one.
That's gonna be a pool edition.
Oh, another one.
Yeah.
Have we ever counted how many pools are in West?
I have
I
no
don't
idea,
see
we could
one.
count pool permits, but
And just as one of those, as, comments. Okay.
Okay, long range. Next, the survey is planning to launch next week for our transportation survey. I have here for you guys, if you want to take a look at them right now.
You looked at
Well,
this
those
one
were sent
before,
to me.
right?
Oh, yeah,
We
yeah.
don't
we
count
see.
that.
Okay.
We said that.
So if you have comments on them, I'm getting our final comments back to our consultants tomorrow.
Okay.
So anything you want to say on it,
Did you incorporate our prior comments?
Yes, yeah, we've gone through this a few times, but, it's gonna look like this. I mean,
It's pretty basic.
It's pretty, huh?
yeah,
It's a pretty survey.
so yeah, so if you haven't taken a look at it, that's what we're looking at coming on very soon. Is water master plan, we are convening the working group again on Monday. Will be when we get back together and start talking about what we do with the new knowledge we have from the historical analysis.
What is the, meeting time for that?
9 a.m. to
9 a.m.
10:30.
9 AM on what day?
Monday,
Till 10:30, right?
till
That's
10:30, yeah,
right.
that's about what I've scheduled it for, I think. Signs, we're picking up kind of after like Christmas
Nothing's
break.
happened because of Christmas.
Christmas break, but we're picking that up again. I'm still hopeful to get that on, get an update to everybody, a more substantive one on February 5th.
We don't have a meeting scheduled yet for signs, do we though?
No, we don't have like a long public
Yeah,
meeting
right,
or
that's
anything,
right.
no,
Or
that would
with
just,
any of our meetings.
no,
Group.
or in the group, no, or anything
Because I
like
told
that.
you how I was uninvited from all of our upcoming meetings. And
Yeah.
I've never been at a meeting yet.
So,
Because I had to uninvite you and then invite you back, and I don't know, it just didn't work.
so tell me something, the signs meeting is open to the public, it's not a working group one, right?
Well,
It was a working group.
it is a working
So there
group.
aren't no meeting notes or?
No, there's no meeting
There's
notes
no
or
posting.
agendas for that, or no
Okay.
postings.
All right.
So we will get, there will be a public component to this, after we've gone through our next steps, which is kind of board outreach. Other than that, I think that's all we have for,
Oh, wasn't there something about the scenic road
Yeah,
guidelines?
what's going on with that?
scenic road guidelines.
I thought there was a meeting, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, so the scenic road guidelines, and that kind of ties into rules and regulations. This is a newer effort, but yes, we did have a meeting with a group of developers, realtors, Diana,
And a resident.
And a resident, yeah, to
So Diana,
discuss.
who else?
Mario,
Okay.
Mario Alanya, Greg Shea, Olga Olinsky, and Rick Olstein.
Anyone from the board?
So Tony, Alicia, and myself were there.
Okay.
What's that guy's name, Rick what?
Olstein,
Olst.
yeah.
So what are these meetings all about?
So these meetings are,
We're in the dark about.
this is following up from when we did from when Article 20 came up. When we met with the proponents of Article 20, one of the things we said to them was, there's no point in repealing an entire bylaw, but if you have issues you want to work on, let's discuss those. So this is us finally coming around to discussing those issues and saying, okay, do you have something substantive that we can change that's not, scrapping the entirety of the bylaw? So that's what we're looking at with them. So, the meeting, this yesterday was a lot about hearing their concerns.
So can you give me some examples of what they're asking to change?
So a lot of them had to do with, say, time, we were looking with the development.
There'll be a full, continue the discussion, but I want to
Yeah.
let you know, there'll be a full report back to the whole board.
Oh, good. When?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because, I feel like unless we discuss what we feel is the right thing, and like right now, I don't know why.
We're in a listening.
change.
We're in a
Hold on a
listening.
second. Until we discuss it and decide what's best, what we think, the planning board thinks is best as far as scenic roads go, I don't know that you should be out there representing, or both of you should be out there representing us.
There's three of us, bless you.
Oh, right. Because I don't want to give them the wrong impression that we're open to something that maybe you think is a good idea, or you think is a good idea, or you think is a good
I've
idea.
made
but that the
clear,
board-
Steve, and I think Diana can back me up on this, and Alicia, may mind. We've made clear that we're not representing the planning board. We might have some ideas, but we're out there sort of in a learning fashion. First of all,
So you're not a representative of the planning board when you're.
No,
meeting?
I'm a representative of the
So-
planning board, but I don't represent the whole opinion of the
Oh,
planning
okay.
board. They know that any recommendation we might have agreed to there, we have to come back here and discuss it, right? There's no.
So you're in data gathering.
Right, we're in data and opinion gathering, right?
Because it was pretty strongly repealed at town meeting.
I'm assuming there's no discussion about any repeals, but I think go ahead.
The first thing that I'll tell you was my mindset is that,
Defeated at town.
Defeated,
Sorry.
right.
Pretty strongly defeated at town.
what was the vote?
I don't remember.
Article 20 was
Looks like-
441 against, Article 20, 241 for, 65%, so it was
Yes, right, right.
two-thirds,
right.
one-third.
So this isn't, I don't want you to get the impression that we're talking to them about another repeal of the scenic road. That's not the starting point. That's not the starting point. The starting point is taking a look at, holistically, the scenic road bylaw and our processes, what's happened over the course of 20 years that it's been in place. And has it accomplished what it is intended to do or not? And are there things that we can do to make it accomplish those things better? That's right. So most of the discussion
Better
is
from whose point of view?
everybody, from the resident point of view.
Really?
From the
citizens who
purpose of the-
voted two-thirds to
Exactly.
defeat
You
this.
forgot that Josh was there as well.
Yes.
I said a
Yeah.
resident was there.
Oh,
So he was there as a resident?
He was on
Oh, I didn't
conservation.
realize that. I
Ron
thought
Josh
he
is
was
a
there.
resident.
I know, but
He's
I
a
thought he was there as a
resident.
Concom
So,
member.
where,
Was
the
it-
major, I don't want to go too far here because there's more to come, and I don't want to be accused of talking about this too
Fine.
materially before we really talk about it with people in the
I thought he
room.
was there as a Concom.
Since it is
But
not on the agenda.
there has been an argument made that the scenic road bylaw has had the unintended consequence of making houses along newer houses along scenic roads bigger rather than smaller, right? So that was a starting point for me. And we're looking at data to whether that's true or not, right? Because it'd be nice to know that answer. The data that I saw presented at the town meeting was not credible to me, But I was interested in actually looking at the data. What does the data really show? Is this an unintended consequence? But that was a big starting point for me, is a reason to have a conversation.
Bigger because they have to go through.
Exactly, bigger because the
You're
process,
saying they have
whatever.
to make it bigger to make more money because there's more cost involved with going before the plan.
Yeah, right,
That's
and
rational.
the long-term monitor, whatever it is, I don't want to get,
Mhm.
again, I don't want to get into it. So I was interested in that, so that would be saying that if, in fact, the motivation, the goal of one of the main goals of the scenic road bylaw is to avoid McMansions on scenic roads, and McMansions on scenic roads are happening, it's like, maybe this is, maybe we need to make a change, whatever that change is. So I don't know that that's the case. That's been the accusation, and I'd like to understand the facts behind that, the data behind it. So Josh, for example, MIT Sloan graduate, really bright guy, really good with numbers. So he's digging into stuff with EMI, and we're taking a hard look at that data and see what's really happened over the last 20 years. So that was the starting point.
To the entire town with sizes of homes.
Exactly, we're looking at what's happening with
Yeah, you have
scenic
to
roads,
background
what's happening with the rest of
against
the
that,
town,
exactly.
comparing and contrasting.
And
And
then,
so
of course-
trying to draw some conclusions around that.
And then, of course, it'd be interesting to see what happens in other affluent towns as far as the size of houses.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Right, we haven't done that, but that's a good.
yeah,
But
that's a
you
really
need
good
to
point.
look sideways, yeah.
Yes,
And-
exactly.
Okay, that's it, but the other thing is to listen, they have some really, I think, good and practical ideas for how we could do some things better to make it less costly for them,
I mean,
while still doing our job,
I mean, they're
so.
sitting on the other side of the table, so it's
Right.
good to get their viewpoint.
And
So
the,
those were the two starting points for me.
and the select board has representation in that group as well.
No, it's the people he named, no one on the select board.
So Chris Houston was a.
No.
But I thought you said at the meeting yesterday, Tony, that the thing came about because of a conversation with Chris Houston. That was one of the things you said.
Did it come because of the conversation with Chris Houston? No, it didn't start there.
But that was one of the motivating factors.
You know what, and we have a tape of it as well, so if you guys are really
Yeah.
pining for the information,
Exactly.
I can get you that.
Diana,
Yeah.
taped it.
Yeah,
It wasn't
Diana taped
taped
it.
on the town, by the town.
Do you have your,
Everybody felt
your,
comfortable with being
tripod?
taped. If you want to know where it came from the root, the Article 20 conversations that I had in person, sanctioned by Al, with the developers, and we committed at that point in time to meeting with them after the whole Article 20 situation passed, meaning we were through with it.
Yes, but it appears we're not.
Well, I mean, I mean, frankly, I think it's not a bad idea to meet with people and see if there's ways that we could do things better, that's all.
Well, I agree with you on that.
Okay, it's not,
But I don't think it should
I've been
be-
careful
But I
to
don't
say-
think it should be a given that we will really change anything in a bylaw that was approved
Oh,
two-thirds.
God, I don't think that's the case at all.
Okay,
That's-
I
that's-
just want to
I-
make sure
I
of
think
that. that this-
people
that
are
they're
very
not-
sensitive.
They're not feeling that, oh boy, we're going to make some inroads now.
No, I don't, I mean, that's not what I understood when
Well,
Tony
their
was talking
whole, that
about it.
article was
You
about
might want to
making
watch the
significant
tape, Leslie.
inroads.
Well, I haven't
But-
seen the
but-
tape,
Yeah,
I
no,
wasn't
I'm
there,
saying-
my Vulcan
No,
mind
I'm
melt,
just saying you
yeah.
might want to.
But you're right, enough
Well,
discussion on this. because
Diane,
it's-
you have, can you send it to Imai, and Imai can send
But
it to us?
actually, just having this discussion helps me, because
Yes, right.
to me, it was just this mysterious thing happening, like, why are we meeting with these developers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who started it? What's
Right,
the
so now we
reason
know
for it?
history
What are
on
we
that.
trying to achieve?
But it-
So just talking about it and knowing
That's
why
fair.
is very helpful.
That's fair. And from my perspective, I've talked about it before, not to this level, but even with, when Al was the chair, this was discussed, meeting with them as a byproduct of Article 20. Okay,
Minutes.
Minutes. Daniel's on minutes.
To be reviewed the 5-1 minutes?
Not
Steve,
5-1,
did you-
but 5-15.
Steve did,
I don't
right?
remember.
So
No, I
5-1
didn't
was to be
review the
approved.
5-1.
5-15, I did the same format as the previous minutes.
Oh, those
Right.
meetings,
And then I
I'm
did
there,
a new
yeah.
format, so hopefully if you guys want the new format, I can start doing that.
Love the new format.
Yeah,
and
Well,
format,
well,
yeah.
I'm not, I'd like to work on the graphics, because I think some of the way things are bolded, it doesn't follow really easily for me. I don't mind the separation by project, I think that's fine, but some of the graphics I find hard to follow, that it falls under that heading.
You wanna put them up here?
Yeah, you can pull up.
Well,
Must mean I didn't come prepared for that, but just glancing at it.
Sell your format.
I think it's great, and I reviewed them and made some suggestions, and I think we can approve the content if you want to, but since we haven't reviewed 5.1,
Yeah,
I don't know that you want to skip.
Oh, we could, I think that's fine to skip.
Have we reviewed April meeting minutes?
April?
Yeah, I think,
How far behind are
Can
we?
I
That's
just
pretty
say
far behind.
that that's an actual violation of open meeting law, not posting timely minutes. I wrote all the minutes up to 5.1 before I joined the board on 5.5, and we're still looking at them now, and it's January. That's a real problem. We're
We know
further
it's a
behind
problem.
than any other board in Weston.
It's because there's no one writing the meeting minutes.
Yeah, we have no staff.
Until,
But Dana,
But they were written, we're looking at May and it's January. I wrote that in May. I wrote those meeting minutes in May and it's
Right.
January, we're just looking at them. So it's not a fact that someone isn't writing them currently, that's another issue. But the review
oh,
process
the review
is,
process, yeah.
something is wrong
we
with
had agreed
planning
to publish
boards.
drafts.
Yeah, we have drafts up.
We have drafts up.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
But we
Well,
should
I-
hopefully go through them. I mean, even if it takes next meeting, you know, where we take half an hour and go through and get them up and get them out of the door.
I don't
I
have to
did
do
look
It's
at,
embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
I did a
It's
quick
been going
look
on for
through
years.
Yes.
emails, and like the last meeting minutes that I reviewed, I think were in March.
Yeah.
So unless other people reviewed them in April, which maybe they
Yeah.
did, and I just.
I don't mind
remember,
reviewing if you want, if
We should make
Steve,
sure.
if Steve, he's got a lot, everybody's got a lot to do, but if somebody wants to send me evenly, me, a couple, and everybody else, we're happy to.
But I don't think Steve's the bottleneck.
No,
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
no, it's drafting. It's,
Yeah.
I didn't want to continue drafting until he approves a certain format, so if this is
Okay,
Okay,
what
so
we
he
want
wants
to use,
this,
then I can
that's the
start
next
knocking
step,
it
is for
away.
him for
Yeah.
us
Next
to
few
approve the
weeks.
format. So
Okay.
where are we in approving the format, in your mind?
Well, I was hoping that you would,
Can we
Okay.
take a look at it, please?
I think it's, I
Leslie wants
don't
to-
think I have it up on, I have it on my desktop and then in my email, I'm not sure if it's here.
I can email it to you.
Yeah, if you want to do that, or email it to me.
Email it to you, right? I did email, no, I didn't email your actual meeting, it was just my comments. Okay.
And that's all we have left, so there's nothing we can talk about while it's before we go.
I like that big TF thing.
I know, it looked pretty cool.
Where's that come from?
That's Outlook. That's just what Outlook looks like.
I'll have to start using Outlook.
Hey, did we find out what happened to the lights going up?
No idea. I think
Always
it's
kept in
the
the dark.
I think it's the.
I know.
It's windy,
it's
you mean
fine.
today?
Yeah,
It's very windy out.
is that what?
Yeah, we're in our little cave here, but it's,
Because I went on the way back, I went by Stonegate, because I thought that was gonna be discussed today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And to see what it looks like, and they were digging up the street there, I was wondering if they hit something, but it was only the town hall, and no.
You can email it, your
Here
They
they are.
didn't have any of the post lights on, they only had the, sconce lights on.
As I understand, they've capped
The post
the
lights?
posts already, yeah.
And some of the sconces are very bright and some of them are not,
On the walls?
on the wall sconces.
So I don't know what
Stonegate,
that is.
I wanted to see what it looked like at night, so I stopped off
Yeah.
You
before I
might, can I
came
search your
here.
email for mine?
And
Yeah.
going around, a lot of the onion
Yeah.
bulbs were
Yeah.
just
Just, you
fine,
know,
very
from
nice, very
walking.
good.
I
Some of
just
them, like
checked
the one you
this
see when you go straight in, is very bright, like they replaced it with halogen,
They've replaced it with some halogens.
something like
Yeah.
that. And at that point, the onions really become.
Right,
Yeah.
right in your eye. Wow.
So anyway,
That's good.
Okay. I
nighttime
just sent it
views,
to you, right?
OD.
Unless you already found it.
Let's get
No,
one
I'm
past
waiting
it.
for it to come through.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You certainly have this?
Eh.
Are you nervous about not having it? You have it?
No, we have it, it's just not, it's on my desktop and then in my email, it's not
Oh, okay.
on the public, there it is.
Can you just email it?
To him. Did you want me to email it to you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's still
a
going
text
on?
for me.
Yeah, does anybody else have it?
Well, if you email
Yeah,
it.
so
Here we
here
go,
we
here we
go.
go.
Alright.
Here it is.
So
Sweet.
here's the new format. condensed it. It was originally 10 pages, now it's 4.
Okay, let Leslie make her comments.
Well, I need, sorry, I'm gonna have to come up, you can be, bye for a second, please, here, bye. I'd love to think of that skinny, but it's not even close. All right, can we just, all right. But this is graphic stuff, and no one really wants to hear about it.
I wanna hear.
Well, okay. Can you go up a little bit, so I can see more to the top?
This is all the top.
Okay, I wanna see this part down here.
Down there.
There we go, thanks,
Great.
sorry. So, this is, so special order, this was nomination, is this really what we were talking back when? When was that?
Yeah, this is
May
5/15.
Okay.
So I kind of set it up as the agenda too, so we had public comments, we had special order, administrative, public hearing, new.
Right.
so
Yeah,
it's
and
the
this is
same
where
as
I
the
got
agenda.
confused, because I didn't know how these all related to each other. The administrative, the special order, the public comment, got it, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Special order, because this is such an odd, a rare thing to do, I wasn't sure how that related. Then it gets into administrate, these to me don't mean anything yet.
Well, he just took them from the agenda, their agenda listings.
Okay, well, let's keep
Right.
going, go to public hearing, maybe I can get it to show you a better idea. So you have, public hearing, be ahead of the game, blah, 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 discussion, decision. This doesn't follow to me that it's necessarily under public hearing because of the way the graphics work. I guess what I would say is, this whole thing should move, so I'm under public hearing, so I know this all follows the
So just
public
want to
hearing.
tab it
Is it
over.
just an indent?
Well, I'm trying to see how it actually falls. So when you do an outline and you have indents and all the rest of it, you have, a topic and then you can see it's lined up in the topic. This is all in the same area, so for me, it's difficult to figure out what is aligned under anything. So an indent would be helpful, that's a start. And also everything is bold, so if you can set it up so this is the bold and these are secondary, it comes down. So it follows more readily.
Everything
There's
is
a-
not bold.
Okay, well, this is, I think, this is bold, this is bold, this bold,
Well,
bold,
the
bold,
But
bold.
that's the other-
subtitles are
yeah.
bold, and then
Yeah.
the address is bold, the things that are bold should be bold. People's names are bold so that they pop out.
Well,
I mean, I think it's very clear, if you want to indent it, it's fine, but clearly, if you're looking at it, everything under public hearing is public hearing until you get to the next subtitle.
Okay, I find a lot of the graphics to be, when you have so much bold, you don't focus on what's going on. That's my opinion.
But I don't know why you're saying there's so much bold. Public hearing is big, the next item,
Bold, 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 bold,
Because
bold,
Public
bold.
hearing's actually not, it's bold, it's just a bigger font too.
Well, whatever it is, when we have our meeting notes now, it just says, initials or your name or whatever. There's just a way of setting up the hierarchy so it's more easy to read. And I don't find this easier to read. If the rest of the board disagrees, great.
I disagree.
Okay.
I would, at first glance, it doesn't look confusing. It looks really well laid out and stuff, but I understand about sort of the font sizes, the boldness, the caps and everything
there
else
is a
gets-
hierarchy, it's a very clear hierarchy in bold.
Yeah.
Everything is not bold. Those 4 lines happen to all be bold because of a particular situation. But they're also a combination of large type and small type, they're not all the same.
Do you have to
So-
bold all the people? How about that?
We did that previously, so I just
Well,
kept
I
it.
think that's
always
good,
done
it
that.
pops out, you
Yeah,
see
it
your
does,
name.
yeah,
Who's
so you can see
talking?
what, if you're being quoted.
I mean, maybe putting a little more space between addresses, between applications.
And Dana, if you're calling everyone by their last name, why are you calling Leslie Leslie?
Oh, that's what I'm saying now.
Be consistent,
Yeah, I'll change that. I'll do that.
okay?
So, I mean, could we just go with this
Yeah.
until we all have been, deep in it for a
Yeah,
while?
we'll try it,
And then
why not
see,
try it?
and then see if a couple of people find it's kind of
Sure,
annoying?
sure.
Or what exactly is annoying about it?
I think you should put a header on every page so you know what meeting date it is, because if a page gets detached,
Yeah,
you
I
can't
get you.
tell,
Or a footer?
Yeah.
or add it to the footer along with the
Yeah,
page
why don't you
number
make a
of the.
footer?
Yeah, footer would be better,
One
it's
way.
safe space.
one way.
Make sure the footer's working.
Also, when you get to the top, right now, the first thing I see when I read public comment. I don't read planning board meeting, that's so faded out, I don't see it.
Yeah,
So that should be the big
Yeah.
one, so I know what I'm.
Yeah.
yeah, actually, it doesn't even
Good
mention.
answer.
Yeah, planning board meeting is
It's
just
like
sort
we're
of,
describing the town of
Right.
Weston.
Right.
Right, we'll separate
Yeah,
that.
that
Yeah,
makes
that's good.
sense.
Yeah.
All right, but I can, basically, I can knock out 2 of these or 3 of these by the next meeting if.
Which would be
Yeah.
awesome.
So we'll all give it a,
Did you
We'll
send
give it
us
the
a
old
live
college
document
try.
or a PDF?
I think it's just a Word document.
Okay.
it just says
If I have
doc.
any energy,
Yeah.
I might just do a whack at it, because it's hard to describe it, it's easier just to look at something.
Is it easier when it's printed out than seeing it, you know, all rolling on the screen?
It might be.
Might be.
I
Yeah,
wonder if
But
that's,
I think instead of me just talking up in the
Yeah, yeah.
air, let me put down what I
I think
think I'm
most people
looking
look at it
for
online.
and see,
I
because
know.
I like the succinctness of it, there's no question about it.
But online, it's gonna be a PDF.
Just the graphics that I
Yeah.
find confusing to
As you
look at.
click on the
I think
change
most
for
people
the
are gonna read it
minutes.
online.
but, yeah, I
A little
think
more
I,
space now.
it's quite readable and it's,
Very
it's,
Did we have minutes?
nicely in order, you know, according to the.
So one thing is, as far as substance goes, Dana deleted some comments that I thought were okay because I'd have to look at at Alicia's version of the notes, but it said something, but there was nothing substantive about it, like you couldn't really, you know, like someone would say something, but there was no response, so
Right.
it really didn't mean anything. Or it would say something like, you know, someone showed a drawing, but you can't see the drawing, so
Well,
what's
you
the
have no
point of
reference.
mentioning?
Yeah.
So I think it made sense to remove those. There were a few items that I asked him to add back because I thought that they were meaningful enough that they should go back into the minutes, but that was just like a handful.
So, and Dana, I'm gonna be an English geek and say you are mixing tenses. So can you just be consistent and have past tense
Well, I think that,
and not present tense and past tenses?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Also, having the campus map fact sheet, landscape plan sections, generally, it's been my experience that when they're in a blue, that's a live link, so that I would be able to click it.
exactly.
I
And
assume it is.
is it a live
Yeah,
link?
it's a lot,
It
like, you
will
just
be,
gotta
yeah.
do the
That's
control.
what takes them so long.
Well, I'm on
Control.
my,
You gotta hold down control on your laptop first.
it's not a laptop,
Or
so it's my pad. See,
So far here, if I go on my thing and I go control, and I click it.
I'm having trouble, it doesn't live for me.
When it's a PDF, that'll solve itself though.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
because
a
it's
Word
not-
doc, it's not.
That's
It's not a
really nice.
PDF, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
your
probably
Word
true.
might not be set up to do that. Your-
Because that's wonderful if that's the case.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, if I'm on a PDF, you should be able to just
That would
click
be
on it with
fabulous,
the mouse.
yeah, but the magic doesn't work.
Give that thing away.
We've been doing that. Our decisions all do that as well, by the way.
Yeah.
They all link live.
Yeah.
So
That's right, I hadn't noticed that, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, they're really great to do
Yeah.
that,
So, and
yeah.
our minutes all
I
link
think
live
you're right
too.
about
They
the
all-
PDF.
So,
Are we the only guys cool enough to
Yeah.
do that?
That's why they take so long to do.
Yeah.
It might be, that's a lot of work to link all that stuff.
Actually, the linking isn't that
No?
hard, I don't think.
It would be for me.
But I think for archival purposes, it saves so much time,
Oh,
you know,
sure.
having to look for dates
And
and
that
things.
anybody who's actually interested in this might be able to see exactly
Yeah.
what went on, because so much of our business is graphic.
And Dana, just so you're not writing a novel, which I know mine had become because they were long, but that's the way the advice I was given. But instead of saying mentioned and then this, we always did stated or asked.
Okay,
So
you keep with
you
those
don't
words.
have to have, you know,
Like the
you're not
type of
thinking of
mentioned.
flurry, you know, like flowery language. What he mentioned, you know,
Yeah.
just stated or asked.
We'll make that
Yeah.
Well,
That-
maybe
that's
find a
good.
low voice.
Exactly, just basic, just the facts, you know? Yeah, exactly, that's
Okay.
War and Peace.
God, I hope not.
It doesn't, you know,
Right, we're
it's-
getting there.
No, but I mean, it's
Are you done,
been
Dana?
trimmed down so much.
Yes,
That's
oh,
a
God, yes,
huge
we're saving
improvement, I
paper.
think.
Yeah, yay.
I like that, well done,
Bravo.
Dana.
Bravo, we're happy.
What happened to that woman who was ready to
Are we ready to, are there minutes to approve?
Yes, because Steve read.
We
Steve
scared
did
them.
Well,
No, she actually.
Eli, are there minutes to approve?
So, how do you guys feel about this one? Do you, content-wise, this one is okay,
On
right?
May
With-
15th?
With
Yeah.
the changes that
Yeah,
I
that-
asked him
yeah,
to
That
make.
they-
Right.
that Steve has,
Yeah, there was a
so.
Okay.
couple, there was
And
another.
And I can wait a week for
All
you,
glint.
Leslie, if you want to make some changes on
Yeah,
this
and
one.
all glint, yeah, we'll just work on it for the next one.
So yes or no, do we have minutes to approve?
I think you can approve, so.
And then we do have a 5-1, I don't know if anyone took a look at that, that's with the previous format.
Steve, did you look at that?
I did not look at that.
But you looked at this, are you ready to?
Yes.
Okay, Steve likes it, I move that we approve it.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Unanimous.
Hee-haw.
That's one down.
Okay, no other.
We're in a roll now.
No other minutes, no.
Okay.
And no other items on the agenda, so, oh, I do want to go back to the date for getting back together on the citizens' comment issue.
Mhm.
What are we thinking?
I'd say the 5th of February.
No, why would that?
Oh,
Because
sorry,
I-
I'm losing it. Which citizen's comment?
The Alicia's.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
because,
Sorry.
yeah.
The tabled
See,
motion,
because
yeah.
I'm not, I can be here
Oh, you're not gonna be
remotely,
here.
but I will not be here in person.
Okay,
But you can vote,
I
right?
can vote and I can listen, but,
What's up to you?
so what
Yeah.
date
Would
are
you
we
rather
talking
be
about?
here?
huh?
Would you rather be here for that?
I would wish you would. I think it'd be very helpful.
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
think
going
so.
on.
All right, so
So
yeah,
what date are we aiming for?
that is Wednesday, February 5th.
February 5th then.
but what about the executive session? You'll find out.
I'll find out.
I don't, for me, it doesn't have to be an executive session. If you guys want it to be, I'm fine with that, but
Well, let's-
I don't know.
I'm with Alicia,
Could be
I'm
an
uncertain
executive.
about the trigger for that.
Well, there is a I've seen a list before,
Yeah,
whether this
there's
falls in that list. I'm
Yeah,
not
I don't,
sure.
I would
does,
like to try for one.
But yeah, we can,
Yeah, if
I'll
not,
get a
we'll deal
definitive
with it.
answer.
But I guess one of the
Right.
reasons I don't know which committees always are videotaped. I don't know how that decision is made, but there are a lot of committees which are not videotaped. And, you know, so.
So do people prefer an executive session?
I do.
Okay, do you? And
Well, Sue, when do you go away again? I don't know, you don't want to do this on the tape, but, so that they
Yes.
can, when Sue's house is in.
Louder.
Okay. Never mind, Sue's
Never
not
mind.
going away again.
I'm not going with.
Anyway, well, we can schedule something, through you. Because didn't we say you wanted town council, Tony?
Miriam, my name is Miriam.
You want town council actually there?
no, I don't, for me, town council doesn't have to be there. No, that's not my,
That's what I thought you said. Okay.
yeah, but okay, I thought we said the 5th of February?
Yeah,
Okay.
if
And if
possible.
we can do an executive session before that, we will do so.
Okay, because I could call in on that as well.
Well,
But I thought
we
we
can
just
have a
decided-
separate, we can do it before that and not have an executive session. I mean,
But I thought
Well, why don't we
we
do
wanted
it-
Sue there.
Yeah, I would like
Right.
to do
Okay,
that. This is
okay.
important
So
for
it's the
the people in the room.
Okay, so the
And
5th,
chair.
let's put it on the agenda for the 5th.
I think
Yeah.
that's too
And-
far. I think that's too far out. It's a full month from now.
Hmm.
I think we need to schedule something separate. If we could possibly do it in between now and when,
It's Sue's travel issue.
well, right.
Alrighty then, let's see.
But we could do this, we could.
How does the
do a-
15th look for everybody?
Is that our next meeting?
No,
That's
Yeah,
next
it's
week.
all-
it's next
all-
week,
Okay, I can do it.
or the 16th,
16th I might.
or the 14th? That's what I'm talking about.
Well, why doesn't Imai send up, we can communicate?
I-
with-
No,
know
well,
what,
let's
I-
just decide here, it's good.
Fine.
I can also
Well, like,
reaffirm those dates.
Okay.
okay, let's stop for a second.
Yeah.
Steve, I believe, and I might be wrong, that your schedule is probably the most dicey to work with?
I can do any of those 3 days if we're talking evening.
Right,
Evening,
okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
I
Thursday.
prefer Tuesday or Thursday, but I don't have to go to this thing on Wednesday if that's the only way.
Okay.
So why don't we
I
all
can make
hold,
any of those.
so let's
Okay.
hold Tuesday, what time, 7 o'clock again? So either Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, or Thursday, and we'll pencil it in.
Tuesday the-
How's Tuesday look?
Tuesday the 14th.
Alrighty.
That's the preferred, but we'll hold Wednesday and Thursday.
And that gives you
Over
enough
here.
time to find out about the executive
Yeah.
session,
Alright,
and
That
post
way,
it and
yeah, we
everything.
can do that. Or basically just have another lights out and there's no electricity, oh, but you can record, that's right.
The camper still work?
I'm gonna do that.
Oh,
It couldn't have been
back,
a
yeah, battery
coincidence.
backup.
Yeah.
Okay,
Shared for, we have a conspiracy theorist here.
Are we done?
There's always one, or,
Yes.
no, there's always two, it's
It
conspiracy.
could possibly
Yeah.
have been a coincidence.
Right.
All right,
But
so
aren't we, I thought, when are we staying to talk to you? Is that the next meeting?
Staying to talk to me for what are we talking about now?
About the thing we're not allowed to talk about with them here?
well,
No,
we
but
we
we'll
tabled
leave.
it to put this on for the Tuesday.
Oh, no,
Oh, that's, no,
He's
the
talking about the
5th.
actual discussion.
do I need to leave? Is that what we're saying?
We'll leave.
What
I
about-
think I need to
Well,
leave.
whisper in your ear.
Yeah, right.
What, who?
We're out of here.
Oh.
Remember I asked you about that?
So, yeah, okay. But that one, That one we didn't add either.
Oh,
We need
well,
to
that's a
close the
problem.
meeting.
Because that's an ongoing thing.
Yeah,
that
so,
we need to-
can we make Steve chair at this point? Can we
Yes.
vote to make
Okay.
Steve chair?
So wait, we don't have that on the agenda though.
Are you gonna talk about
Yeah.
something about that?
No.
Well, Steve still is the de facto chair on this other topic, isn't he?
No.
Well, he was elected just for a moment,
Right.
just for
Yeah.
that meeting. So,
Well,
Well, that's a problem, because we need to talk about that, and I asked you to put that on the agenda, you mind?
yeah, but the thing is, that's not how we do agendas, you know, not
What,
by,
having-
I asked, one request, I don't put anything on the agenda. I work with the chair to put something on the agenda.
But you
And
can't
no-
talk to the chair about this issue.
No, so I
You
asked
told me that,
everybody, so I asked everybody else if we could put this on the agenda.
And we
I
all said
don't-
we could stay after the meeting
So-
to do it.
right. So that's after the meeting, so it doesn't have to go
I
on the
know.
agenda.
But no, it-
No, if you're gonna
Is it a
talk about it,
quorum?
no, this
I'm
isn't
so
on the
confused.
agenda.
There is a quorum, because there's three
Everyone is
today.
closed.
So,
It's not on the agenda, it's a forum.
I'm so sorry.
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right, it's only one, oh, fine. I guess we should get a paper towel.
So if it's not on the
Yeah,
agenda,
have it.
And we
then,
can talk about
We
it.
can't talk about it on the
Okay.
agenda.
All right, close.
are we
So,
having a meeting now?
so
Okay, are
I
we ready
move
to
that
close?
we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, okay.
One
154.
abstaining.